folks?
So moved.
Lead in a second.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Prout, second by Councilmember Espinoza. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Alvarado,
Folks?
Yes.
So moved.
Prout,
Yes.
Espinoza,
Yes.
and Gibbon.
Yes. All right. With that said, we're going to move into public comment. Public comment is for any person wishing to speak on any item on the agenda or within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city council. Speakers are invited to speak from the podium and address the city council. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes unless additional time is needed for translation. Please state your name and address for the record. Public comment time is open. Seeing none, hearing none. Public comment time is closed. Okay, we have one item on the docket for this evening, which is our management report for the fiscal year 2025-2026 operating budget workshop. Sir?
Council. So kind of skipped over here so we can flip through it, at least the intro part. This evening. So this is your draft city
Not
budget.
on? He's not on.
Not on? Let me take a look.
Do we have new ones?
We just press a lot of buttons, Johnny. That's all we had to do, man. It works.
So budget this year, as I'm sure you guys have seen, is a little bit different than what you guys have been used to previously. This year, an emphasis has been put on, especially for departmental presentations, the actual direct services to the residents. Now, you'll notice that a lot of the support departments have not been included, and that includes city manager, and that's intentional. It's not to say that what the support departments do is not actually important. It 100% is to make sure that service delivery goes forward. But tonight, you're going to see what's actually changing in direct service delivery to the resident. So what the resident's actually going to see, and that's where kind of the emphasis is. The priority for this budget has been on service to residents, and that's where we kind of formed it. The budget this year, and I want to thank, first of all of the departments who tightened up their budget. We had a little bit of a dip in revenue, which required us to go back through and really bring things tighter. Oops.
Yeah, I saw it went down before. Why is it doing?
Uh-oh.
You're good.
Too heavy? So just want to point out that the changes, we're going to be going through it pretty rapidly, but if you have any questions during any part of the process, the department heads and I are at your guys' service. Let us know what the questions are. One of the last things I wanted to put on there is ongoing development. This is really ongoing improvement. So we're going to keep looking at city services throughout the years to see how we can continuously improve those. That way we're providing quality service to the residents themselves. That's something we will do on an ongoing basis, and it'll help us hopefully improve overall. It's probably enough talking for me at this point. So we are going to bring up and start our presentations from the departments with PD first.
Honorable Mayor, members of City Council, Randy Milligan, your Chief of Police. I'd like to go over the year-to-date highlights. We filled 9 officer and 3 dispatch positions. Filled the traffic officer position after a 2-year gap. We expanded the patrol presence in Gossamer Grove with the opening of the temporary substation and the addition of officers and 8 patrol units. We have an operational plan moving forward to provide additional coverage that ends with 24/7 coverage. We handled 22,117 incidents, with 42% being officer-initiated activity. We've installed the Flock license plate readers. The Flock system has been very resourceful in locating stolen vehicles and solving several criminal cases. We've implemented the drone, e-bike, and expanded our honor guard and less lethal programs. We have 2 drones and 2 operators running the program at this time. The honor guard team has expanded from 3 members to 6 members. We have added several pepper ball and 40 millimeter launchers to our current less lethal program. We've transitioned to the RDS duty weapon system. The department has completed the necessary training for the red dot system. and is carrying the RDS weapon system as of today. We've increased our social media communication. We've launched a peer support group, and we did our first ever Shop with the Cop event last year. With the fentanyl task force, we have 4 officers assigned to the peer support group. With the fentanyl task force, we hired a community service officer and purchased a surveillance unit and equipment and extra workstations. Since November, we have made a total of 45 fentanyl-related arrests and seized nearly 150 grams of fentanyl and contacted over 350 community members during outreach events. With animal control, they have resumed 7-day service, expanded the clinics, and spade and neuter programs. After the animal control officer has completed the field training program, they've expanded the vaccination clinics on a bi-monthly basis and expanded public spade neuter programs by procuring private donations through current projects on their 501c3. Animal control was involved in 1,167 incidents and handled 3,082 animals, an increase of over 20% from the prior year. I would now like to go over the 25 and 26 key goals and objectives. Please forget. Continued recruitment for qualified applicants to fill key positions. We're looking to fill the second detective position and continue to focus on staffing the substation with additional personnel as per our operational plan of staffing the area. We've implemented the body worn and in-car camera system. On April 22nd, the department went live with the body worn and in-car cameras after staff completed all the necessary training. I will prepare a presentation for the council for the May 20th council meeting. We would like to implement the new call processing equipment and radio consoles, continue with community engagement and community events, expand our drone program, and implement the commercial traffic unit with current staffing along with the electronic citation system, and upgrading and expansion of our existing radio system. For animal control, finalize security camera upgrades, continue clinics, and add wellness services. By finalizing the phase 2 of the security camera upgrade for 360 security camera viewing for shelter and range, and continue the bi-monthly vaccination clinics, and start quarterly wellness mobile veterinarian services. This is a service available to the residents at a low cost. And with the addition of a second animal control officer, recruit and select a second animal control officer to assist with current operations. With that, I can entertain any questions.
Any questions?
I just had some simple. Back on the first page, I didn't understand what was a shop with a cop. What is that? Shop with the cop?
Shop with a Cop event is a yearly event that we take selected children, underprivileged, and they get to go shopping with an officer. We give them anywhere from $200 to $300, and they get to go with the officer to a selected store and purchase toys for themselves and for siblings.
Okay, I didn't think it was that type of shop. Okay, so it's like shopping with a cop.
Yeah, it's called Shop with a Cop. It's
Oh, okay, just. The other one was, the second page, with animal control. At Gossamer Grove, when I was out there just touring the new substation, I don't know the distance and how they could work out, but if there was a need of a kennel out there for just holding some wild dog or temporary or just like a holding, it was just a thought. I'm not saying to do it or not like that, but it was just something, because there's a lot of wild animals out there. I don't know, by time taking it, from one place to another, or maybe the truck itself has enough room to hold animals. I don't know. Just a question.
It's something we can definitely look into, but the trucks do utilize, several storage areas for
Okay,
segregation between the animals.
okay,
And they have air conditioning and.
yeah. All right, that was all.
I do have a few for you, Randy.
Sure.
22,000 incidences, for the last fiscal year, 22,117,000 to be exact. What is that percentage increase or decrease from the previous 3 years? I know you probably don't have it in front of you. Thank you for letting us know the 42% of officer-initiated incidences. Since November 2024, you said over 150 arrests? I missed the number, I'm sorry. Was it over 150?
150 arrests. Were you talking about the fentanyl?
Yes.
That was 150 grams of seized fentanyl.
How many arrests?
It was 45.
Thank you. How many of those, was it Prop 36 that came out late last year?
Yes.
How many of those went to step 3, do you know?
I would have to get those stats for you.
Okay. And then the increased social media communication, do you know what the percent increase was on that?
No.
I know, I'm asking a lot of questions that probably didn't have the information right up
I
front.
definitely can get the numbers for you.
And then I know we talked about the upgrade and expansion of the existing radio system. Is that going to be a shared expansion amongst multiple agencies, or are we just looking to try to self-perform that?
It's ours only.
I don't have any further questions, but I'm going to say this because this is,
I have one, I know we had talked about cameras, you know, the cameras. Do we have to hire somebody just to, all the data, on the camera, or something like that?
No, it's pretty much all handled per the contract in-house at this point.
Oh, okay.
So Axon has the programming, the devices are actually plugged in and downloaded daily at the end of shift.
So if somebody was wanting to look at some footage or something like that, is through that third party or is it through the PD?
They would, if it's, anybody that's not associated with PD would need to submit a California Public Records Act request and they
Right.
could receive them. Yeah.
Okay, I think that was a discussion at one time, thinking about maybe hiring somebody or us. I think that was brought up, remember? That was brought up one
So we
time.
did add a second position in evidence.
So we added a second position in evidence and we promoted our evidence technician to supervisor for that reason, to help with the FOIA request and so forth for maintaining that footage.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
the thing that I would like to see, and I'm not seeing any of it here, and that's not just you, but it's across the board for all the departments, is I don't see metrics. So if I'm looking at goals, I'm looking at what was and what should be. So I'm not seeing metrics that are telling me, for instance, implement new call processing equipment and radio console project. I understand the implementation of it is that the goal is just say that we've completed that. Continue with community engagement at community events. Is there a goal associated with we want to have X amount of community engagements and what have you? And again, Randy, I'm not just picking on you. I'm going to pick on every department on this one because if I'm looking at key goals and objectives, I'm looking at some type of metrics that's telling me where I am and where I'm going. And I don't see that across the board.
If you look at actually the draft budget book, there are plan status and progress based on the strategic planning process that was undertaken last time. These are
Correct.
really, once these are completed, they're pretty much finalized. There's not a lot of benchmarking we can do with these.
Okay, so what we're seeing on this is a derivative based on that strategic plan.
Part of it, yeah.
Okay. That's kind of what I'm trying to figure out here because I'm not seeing, I just want to make sure that I'm understanding what we're seeing here because I'm not seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, part of this, and this is a presentation that's similar to kind of what was done last year. This is really kind of goals, and some of these are actually can't even be implemented until you guys take action. If you guys, like the commercial unit.
Right.
That is a strategic goal to help, especially with commercial traffic, but because the unit hasn't been authorized yet, it's still out in the ether, so.
That's all the questions I had.
I had a question. On the first page, the installation of the flock license plate camera readers.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit how they have worked for the police department? A couple of instances that you can think of how they've worked and how do you think the program's going up to this date?
I would be honored to talk to you about that. So the flock system not only reads license plates and alerts us of anything that's entered into the stolen vehicle data system to where it alerts an officer if a stolen vehicle travels within a certain area of a camera. So it enables officers to respond set up a perimeter and locate that vehicle for recovery. It also is used for investigative tools to where we can input a vehicle description or a license plate into the flock system. And if that vehicle ever comes within our area of our flock cameras, it alerts our investigators and officers that that vehicle is now back in the area
In real time?
in real time,
Okay, okay.
immediate. As soon as it takes a picture of it, it's almost spontaneously sending a text message to the officers and notifying dispatch.
So it's working the way it's supposed to be working.
It's working marvelously, just like we anticipated it was. It also links with all the other flock systems from all the other outside agencies' cameras. We've able to solve several crimes by locating a vehicle, identification factors of the vehicle, and stopping that vehicle and solving crimes.
Okay, good. Okay, I was just a little curious as to how the system was working, but thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions, council? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, this is Dennis Fiddler, your building official. This afternoon, I'll be presenting the building department budget for building and code enforcement departments or divisions. The summary of this past year is, once again, the building department's been extremely busy and record-breaking year. Seems like something we talk about every year, but every year it seems to get busier, which is great for Shafter. We've continued upward trends in single-family residential permitting and construction. We've continued the upward trends in commercial industrial development as well. We continued the upward trends in complex, high-valued projects. We set new records for most residential permitted units this year. We set new records for most permits issued, and we set new records for highest valuation totals, including highest revenues of our department. So we've done well this year. Oops. Can you get to? That I can do it. Okay. So looking at some of our accomplishments this past year, starting with the residential, we had 431 new single-family homes, which is a good number, our highest number that we've had. We had 331 new units in the Gossamer Grove area, and we had 100 in the core, which is a great number. I'll go over that here in a second. Some of our activity in the core area consisted of Willow Estates, Santorini. We finished the 28 homes for self-help enterprises, which was great for City of Shafter. Ball fans was started this year, permitted, and we completed approximately about 75% of the 107 lot subdivision. So a great improvement. They built them quick. They sold them quick. It's a great developer to have there. Then moving into Gossamer Grove. So Gossamer Grove below where we're at north right now, which is below Stone Creek Drive. All tracks have been permitted except there's one like kind of weird small track on the northeast corner up above the rail there. And there's about 100 lots there. So we got about 2,000 lots below this Stone Creek Drive that have been permitted minus this 100 lots. And then above there, we got a track map that's possibly coming here. It's 7244 that has about 1,200 homes. So other than that, we permitted everything below. We got 1,200 plus the 100 and set track 7241 that we'll see. Maricona Preserve, they started this year, and as everyone can tell, if you've driven by, they've been gangbusters out there. They've recently, in the last couple of months, have started about 40 to 50 new homes, and they're moving at a rapid pace. 125 lots have already been permitted. I would expect within the next year and a half, it will be fully permitted out in Maricona. This year in probably mid-year, they're going to go over into Mission Lakes and start dirt work. They're going to start the earthwork. They're going to start utility stuff like that. And they have 4 tracks that Lennar's doing currently that are about 2,000 lots. So we'll see that happening. Going back to the core area, housing uptick. I guess the question is, has it been needed? Do we need the homes? We did 100 homes this year. And then if I can share some numbers with you between 2015 to 2024, the numbers have been small if we look back to 2015, all the way actually back to 2008. But 2015, we did 40 homes in the core. And then after that, it kind of dwindled down into the small teens. So 11, 10, 12, 13. We did 3 in 2020. which is a very, very low number for our core development. We did 11 in 2021. 2022, we did 20. 2023, it started increasing to 48. Now this year we're at 100. So, I mean, the good thing is we've built it back up and there's a lot of good that happens from that. So on the horizon, we see the completion of Ball Fans. We see the completion of Willow Estate, Santorini. There's interest in track 7375. It's the 10-acre lot on Riker and West Tulare across from Santorini. We see the LGI homes starting. They were supposed to start in like April. Now they pushed it to July, but they're just around the corner of starting. Should be a good development for Shafter. The Bayless Stable developments on, at least on the horizon, they've submitted some stuff. So we'll probably see something happen there. The specific plan for Wonderful, there are 4,000 lots or so, as well as there's several other developments that we'll possibly see that have been kind of peeking around. So we'll likely continue to see a healthy stream of homes. I don't know that, I mean, it's your guys' decision, but it seems like 3 homes or 10 homes in the core isn't enough. And the good thing is we have a lot of really good builders that are building in Shafter and we probably want to try to keep that happening. So it's a good thing for us. Having good builders, one of the things, take Lennar, if there's a down in the market, we don't lose. They don't shut down like we saw in 2008 where you have tracks go defunct and stuff like that. They have too much invested to see that happen. So it's really good to have those big builders here. Overall, Shafter's been extremely fortunate to have those builders for the residential growth, especially for the smaller size cities. So moving into some of our commercial and industrial growth. So looking back, this past year, we've completed first off, we completed the Rexco 1 million square foot warehouse and we issued occupancy. So that was the first piece. And then we permitted, in a very, very short period of time, we permitted and issued a certificate of occupancy for Shafter's second Amazon facility. It's an inbound cross-dock, a IXD facility. And so Amazon currently has about 1,200 employees in there right now. And by the end of the year, they expect to see 1,500 employees. So it's pretty good. We see a lot of employees out of it. And a nice facility for Shafter. More major projects. Wonderful completed their 1 million square foot. It's a beautiful building. And we issued a certificate of occupancy. Currently, Wonderful is working with several possible tenants for a long-term lease agreement. And in the meantime, they've leased out the exterior portion to Maersk. It's the ocean carrier that's using it while the container depot is being completed. Currently at the Wonderful Logistics Center, Wonderful has no vacancy. It's unheard of. So other than the 1 million square foot that they're looking to lease, they have no vacancy at all. You couldn't ask for a better model to have 0 vacancy at a park. So Wonderful's doing very, very well. We have approximately about 15 million square feet of building out there. Another project that we finished, this took a long time, but the Amenity Center, the Amenity Complex, we built several large, very, very nice facilities out for Wonderful. We started with the training center and it's very, very nice. It's very well done. Then we kind of got the food court and the parking garage. And now this year we finished the amenity center. So we go out there for a lot of meetings. And again, they're an assistant to bringing in these larger developers for the industrial sites of having something like they have out there. So it's been instrumental to have their facility out there. And I think we'll see more of it as time comes on to the west. They have some other retail and gas and stuff that's planned. Additional commercial projects. So this year we completed the Countryside Corner Car Wash and it's occupied. We also, can you go back to that? We also completed the LGV coupling facility. This is kind of a cool site. It's completed and occupied. It's a great tenant from Southern California. I think they came from Compton. They've now moved into Shafter. They're doing fabrication, storage, and sales. So they're for sure doing their sales out of their site. So it's hopefully we get sales tax from it. The grand opening and ribbon cutting is coming up May 9th. So it's a small thing for Shafter, but it's definitely what we do. Also, Grove Public Schools, we completed phase 1. There's 2 portable classrooms that are about 2,800 square feet for a kindergarten building. We did phase 2, and that's permitted, not occupied yet. It's soccer fields, baseball courts, and hardscape improvements. We also permitted the Starbucks. It's a 2,200 square foot shell building for the second Starbucks. It's right across the street. And the tenant improvements are underway. So we're reviewing the tenant improvements right now. We permitted several things downtown, which is kind of different than we've normally done, but we've did a kind of remodel for El Michoacano. We did Glam and Saloon and Spa, which is, he did a wonderful job. It looks very nice there. Grape Co. Farms is doing improvement on James, and then Big Stop Market is doing improvements. As for community outreach and code enforcement, we've done educational pamphlets through code enforcement to help educate the community on codes and ordinances for safety and maintenance of properties. This has helped us strengthen relationships with the residents and businesses through our voluntary compliance. Code enforcement's a hard one, but we try to make it as soft as possible. No one wants to be told that they have to clean up, but if we don't do it, it won't look right in Shafter. So now on to our goals and objectives looking into the new year. One of them is assisting in achieving the regulatory compliance. We want to increase our customer service enhancement. So we're always looking for better ways to serve the community and provide the best possible customer service. And it seems like we do well now, but why not do better? Staff development and training, it's a big ticket item for our department. We feel like if we can become more educated, that may not work. Oh, is it on? Oh, okay. A big ticket item for our department, as we stay abreast of the codes, we can maybe understand how to be more of a facilitator other than an enforcer. So it's something we've been all learning about in our department. How do we help facilitate development opposed to enforce the development? So just a softer way of going about it. We're going to be adopting the new 2025 California Building Codes effective January 1st, 2026. They come in effect. So at the end of this year, we'll be adopting the new codes. And then finally, a couple last things, the implementation of the land management system. We look to go live sometime, maybe late summer with it. So this will be a big improvement for Shafter all around. So, and then for public outreach goals, we look to promote voluntary compliance to reduce legal actions and gain community support, and then reduce community blight through education and enforcement. Again, I can't stress how important it is. We typically, through Perry and through our code enforcement, we don't write a lot of tickets. We try to go out and just do education. And it works for the most part. Occasionally we have to have something punitive, but we hopefully gain some type of respect of the community and operate that way. With the upcoming year, we see major development in the works, including increased numbers of residential, commercial, and industrial, looking to go live with LMS, preparing for the upcoming code change. And once again, we anticipate and look forward to a continuing uptick of activity. I would think next year at this time, we'll say, hey, we've hit new numbers again. It just seems like every year that's what it is, but it's great for Shafter. It really is. So that concludes my presentation. I'm here to answer any questions.
Questions, council?
I just had, having to do with code compliance. I think sometimes people figure things out that after 5 o'clock, everybody's gone on a Friday. And during the weekends and holidays is where, just because I live here, I see a lot of violations, tractors and residential places that.
Make sure you're in your mic. Yeah, if you don't mind. Thank you, sir. As long as it's on.
Yeah, it's on now.
Thank you.
It just, yeah, I know, the costs, everything has a cost to it, but, I didn't know if there was some way we could maybe rotate somebody, take Monday off, come in on a Saturday or something like that, or, just once a month, somebody works on a Saturday or even overtime for that matter. It's just, I think people already know the fact that, hey, weekends and holidays and after 5 o'clock, it's a green light type of deal, but just a thought.
Yeah, we for sure can do that. And maybe it would be a good thing to try it like once a month or something. And then we can work closely with PD. So, I mean, they can go out and take a report and let us know if something's going wrong. But I think if we're maybe having a presence, say once a month, I think it will give us an idea. Do we need to do it more often or is it enough?
Yeah, it just,
So-
yeah, like exactly, just like you said, the presence makes a big difference. It's just, I try not to look for things, but they just there. You know, it's just pretty obvious, you know, you just go downtown, you go visit somebody, you see all these semis. I don't mean the trailers, just the tractors parked in driveways. And that's just for one. And there's other things that happen, you see, you just notice and you just, oh, well, you know, it is what it is, you know, but that's why we're here, try to correct some of these things.
Okay. Yeah, and if you ever have a list, if you could send me a list of things you see, we'll definitely target those items. But we for sure can put a presence over the entire community, so. As Shafter grows, it's hard for one person, especially to get out to Gossamer Grove and stuff. But so if we know like, hey, it's big rigs in downtown or big rigs in residential, we can definitely focus on those things.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Any other questions, council? Couple, the LMS system, is that also online permitting and plan check?
Yep.
Oh.
So,
Thank you. There's new industrial being built out at, I don't know what you want to call it. Call it Minter?
okay,
Let's call it off Zerker, right?
Yep.
That's in Shafter, right?
it's in Shafter.
So you have 15 million square feet of industrial build out in the WIP. What is that industrial build out on the, let's just say, the northeast portion of Shafter? Do we have a number for that? Because they've built, but you know, sometimes they're, when you use the word hidden. So like that one, you don't really know what's happening unless you're driving on 99 and they're like, oh, hey, look, they're building out here.
So there's very little, there's that little
Yeah.
niche, and I think it's called CTOSC. And they're gonna take up that I think remainder piece, and it's on, again, New Capital there, so.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think you'll see a lot more. Now, there is a lot of land that can continue, and then there's a bunch of land to the west as we go kind of away from there on the other side
Yes.
of maybe maybe on the other side of Cal Paper or on the other side of Carver and Carson.
Mhm.
That continues, that's business park or industrial, as well as in the back of the airport. So there's a fair amount of land that's available there. I mean, we could definitely try to figure out square footages and get you some numbers.
Yes, but what do we know from an industrial build out perspective? How many million square feet do we have in that area? Right, we have the 15 million square feet in WIP. What do we have built out right now? Plus what's coming, right? We know there's some stuff coming. And do we have that total number, I guess would be the question.
No, but we can put it together, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see what is our total number of build out for industrial as a whole.
And
And that-
believe it or not, there's another industrial development up on, I think, Merced and 99.
Yes,
So yeah.
yes,
I'm-
I know where you're
put
at.
something together there. I know there's a decent build out there too.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
You- Okay, actually, I do have one more question.
Sure.
431 homes permitted, how many actually built, or how many have a stick in the ground? Maybe not completed, but actually started getting built?
So I don't have a number on sticks in the ground. We completed, I think it was 338 of finals. So we occupied 338
Of the 431?
of the four, well, yeah, of the 431. So that some may have been the previous year, so it's hard. I can tell you with LMS, we'll have way better metrics when we get there, because
Yeah.
we can set those parameters to go fiscal year or calendar year. So a lot of our stuff is done calendar year.
Do we stay pretty close knit to our permitting? So we pull 100 permits for our homes. We build 100 homes in that 12-month period. Do we get close?
No, it's close. It's close, but it's not always that way. So this year is a code change year. So at the end of the
Oh, yeah.
year, they're going to increase a couple hundred permits, I would imagine.
We-
So
Yeah.
it gets them in front of the curve. You know the
Yeah,
process,
get
but
it,
it
get
gets
it
you
get
in
it
front of
before
the
the code
curve.
changes.
Yeah, to not have to develop new plans. And then again, if there's any new implements of the new code, it gives you a whole year to stay under the old code.
Okay.
So let's say like when fire sprinklers came into new homes, a costly fix, costly improvement into the home. If you pulled 200 permits, those 200 would not have sprinklers, as long as you pulled it the last day of the year.
What's the major change for
There,
your
I haven't
code?
heard of anything major yet. So
Yeah.
they haven't published our new codes. They get
Oh.
published on July 1st. So we'll know, but I haven't heard of anything major. I think it's probably going to be Title 24 though.
That's normally what it is. Okay, thank you, sir, very much.
Yes. Anything else?
All good on our end. Thank you.
Yeah.
Honorable Mayor and Council, my name's Steve Esselman. I'm the Planning Director. I'd like to start off by saying a lot of what Dennis talked about is we're kind of the front end of that process, and then building, engineering, public works are we're kind of the more the back end in the actual development. So a lot of what he said we've had our hand in sort of the site plan reviews of most of that, landscape plans, lot line adjustments to get parcels in the right shape, things like that, that help support building and engineering. With that, I'd like to just briefly go over what planning has been up to in the last year. As you know, you approved a general plan update that we're working with PlaceWorks on. And so last year, it was sort of gearing up, getting the contracts in place, developing the various committees for the general plan, as well as then we have now developed essentially the background reports for the plan, which is basically acts as the baseline so that we can do the environmental analysis for the plans, as well as know where we are so that we can figure out where we would like to go. So that has been a big thrust of what the planning department has been doing this year. On top of that, we were tasked in the fall of last year to create some sort of a visioning plan or a visioning document for the Lerdo Highway corridor. So we did a charrette, and with that, born out of that was the Lerdo Highway corridor visioning report. And so that was another large sort of development that we did here in the planning department. And then on top of that is just sort of the general things that the planning department does, approving track maps, zone amendments, various zone amendments, as well as specific plan amendments, and then conditional use permits that are handled by your planning commission, and then any other planning entitlements like lot line adjustments, parcel maps, things of that nature. So with that, the big goal is, again, seems like quite a bit of my time and energy, at least at my level, is spent on developing the draft general plan, and we'll be continuing to do that. Our hope is to get a draft document by fall, winter of this year, and then begin the environmental document to analyze the environmental effects of the potential plan, which is required by California state law. And also to continue a community engagement through the General Plan Advisory Committee, the Environmental Justice Advisory Committee, as well as going out into the community through pop-up events. We're going to be at Cinco de Mayo this weekend to just sort of explore with the citizenry that come up about what they would like to see in the general plan and what are their thoughts and hopes for development in the city over the next 20 years. We are also a big thing that I just received application for this month, and we've already actually filed what's called a notice of preparation of an environmental impact report for the wonderful Logistics Center West expansion west of Santa Fe, as well as the Lerdo residential project that Wonderful has been working on, and they're going to be creating two separate specific plans, one for the industrial area and one for the residential area. And then under one EIR, they're going to analyze both of those projects, as well as any infrastructure and circulation improvements that would be necessary as part of that. And that will, of course, come to your council for review and for approval or changes to the document how you see fit. But so we'll be working on that quite a bit this year. As Dennis said, there is the land management system. So planning permitting and applications will also go through the land management system, not just for building, but also for the planning department. So we are currently working on creating the various applications and what is necessary in those applications to deem them complete. And so we're still working with the consultant on that project. It's been a long time coming. I know Dennis has been working on it for, I think, since before I got here. And now we're finally getting into those last stages. And then finally, one of the big things we're going to be working on is just updating our website for a documentation that is required above us by our housing element, which includes some primers on accessory dwelling unit and junior accessory dwelling unit processing here in the city. And those are our big goals. On top of that, just the general processing of track maps, site plan reviews, sign permits, pool permits, patio permits, all the stuff that we sort of do on a day in, day out basis that does not require council approval. And with that, I'm here to entertain any questions you may have.
Council questions, comments?
Just have one quick one. Having to do with wonderful plans. I don't know if we're going to have any more workshops of wonderful, are we?
Yeah, so the first meeting in May, there's gonna be a special meeting before the regular meeting. It's for council to have basically a one-on-one workshop with the public, of course, to discuss and provide comment on housing.
Okay, that answered my question. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank
I
you.
have a couple questions for you, Steve.
Sure.
How many track maps were new for 7 standard? How many track maps were new for the core? And the same question will be for extensions. How many last year were extended in 7 center and how many were extended in the core?
Well, I'll be honest, I didn't get to that level of specificity. I just did more of what are the extensions throughout the city. But I can say, basically, this year, we're working on a tentative, down in the 7th standard area, Lennar products and their various specific plans. So there's Gossamer closest to the 99, then there's Marcona Preserve, and then there is Mission Lake. So there's 3 specific plan areas. Currently, we have 1 new tentative track map that we're working on in the Gossamer Grove area, north of the canal, the east-west canal that's owned by, I believe it's SWID, Shafter Wasco Irrigation District. And that's about 1,200 homes. In fact, Alan was saying that's the largest track map he's ever had to work on in his short tenure as being our subdivision planner. He's the one that does the subdivision for the planning department. There is an extension of time for that. Again, as Dennis was saying, about 100 homes in the northeast corner of Gossamer Grove. Those are that is an extension of time that you just recently approved not too long ago. In the Marcona Preserve area, there are I believe 3 phases to that track map. And we are finaling those maps, and we've already finalized 2 phases, and we're going to final a 3rd phase here for that map. That's why they're allowed to develop. Just to give you, just as a point, the difference between a tentative track map and a final map is a tentative track map is really just a promise between the city and the developer. Here are the rules, here are the conditions, we've all agreed to them, you have agreed to them, and then we approve the tentative track map. Where you actually get legal parcels is when you final a map. And that's when it actually then goes to the county and actual legal parcels are created. So just a sort of a difference between a tentative map and a final map. So we have finalized 2 maps currently in the Marcona Preserve area. And now we are working on 4 tentative track maps in the Mission Lakes area. All Lennar, but that does not make up the entirety of Mission Lakes. It probably is about a good, I'd say 60% of Mission Lakes, but there are other developers that own property in Mission Lakes, and at some point they'll be bringing forward a tentative track maps, or they'll sell their parcels and the entitlements already in place, essentially the specific plan area and the ability to build per the specific plan, and then future tentative track maps will come in. In terms of the core, there was the finaling, and then there was in the last year, there was the finishing up of the self-help. There was obviously the ball fans track, which I believe was broken up into 2 phases. So that was a final map. Once you're final, you can actually build their legal parcels. As well as Orchard Park, our only specific plan area here in the core. That is roughly east of the high school. Kind of off on its own a little bit, but there's essentially on the west side, which is currently being developed, there are, I believe, 3 phases to that map, and they have finalized 1 phase. I can give you a little more information. I'll go and kind of give you where we are with the various tracks and whether they're finalized or tentative.
I'm looking at the core. Oops. My apologies, I'm off. I don't know how that happened. Ultimately, if I'm looking at the core, Santrini and ball fans were new tracks.
No.
New tracks in the last 2 years, or were those tentative maps?
Those were under extensions of time. So Ball Fans' tract was actually a very old tract that kept getting extensions of time, and then they finally finalized the map and actually built the tracks. And
So most of the stuff we're seeing in the core, this isn't anything new. This is stuff that we've probably had in our hands for 15, 20 years.
yeah, a lot of it came, a lot of these were these tracks that were developing in the core, other than Orchard Park. Those are new tentative track maps, but essentially every other tract that was developed, that's being developed in the core was under an extension of time, a tentative track map that has gone through a number of extensions of time, which could bring you back all the way to 2007, right before the last
New
crash.
tentative track for Orchard Park. However, it was part of a specific plan. So
Correct.
theoretically.
Yeah, the specific plan itself, which is essentially kind of
Mhm.
zoning with special rules.
Yep.
Under its own specific plan. Yeah, that's been around since 2006, I believe. But the actual tentative track maps are new in the Orchard Park specific plan area.
I don't have any. Go ahead.
Steve?
Yeah.
On your second page, on the bottom, updating websites with required housing element information, the ADUs and the JADUs, are those being pursued in the city, or people actually using or doing that, making the adjacent?
Yes, yeah. There have been ADU and JADU applications that have come through. I can, Dennis actually probably would know better than I would, because it really, at that point, it becomes more of a building department function because it's allowed by right. We, of course, process to make sure that from a planning perspective, the setbacks are correct, that you have the right size per our zoning ordinance. But yeah, they are being utilized, that the ability to do ADUs and JDUs is being utilized.
One of the concerns that was brought to my attention was if anybody was going to be taking out a house to put in these type of units, is that part of that?
No, the ADU is accessory to the primary unit.
So the main unit has to stay.
Right. You couldn't, well, I mean, if you knock down a house, and you build something else, that's a new primary unit. And then from there, they could build an accessory to that primary unit. But you don't knock down houses to then build ADUs. That would just be building a new primary house and meeting the requirements of a primary house. Accessory is always the second one that comes in on the same single-family residential lot. And then a JADU is a little different in the sense that it has to be within the confines, like a garage or an old living room or a family room. It has to be within the primary dwelling unit. That's what a junior ADU is. So think of it as like a garage conversion.
Okay.
Whereas an accessory dwelling unit would be its own separate unit from the primary, and it can be attached or detached.
Okay, and there's no limitations on a zone or an area or anything. You can do this anywhere.
Any single-family residential by state law, you can have one ADU. You can have your primary unit, one ADU, and a JDU. So you could have up to 3 dwelling units if you want, and you have the room to do it. You can have up to 3 dwelling units on every single-family residential lot in the city by right. Per state law.
The owner of the property, does he have to reside there, or?
Yeah, right now we have requirements that you have to reside. Well, they don't have to reside there, but you cannot sell off any of them separately. We have it where you have to, the ADU and JDU has to stay in the same ownership and has to run with the land. But at this point, you could buy a place, make an ADU and a JDU, and then rent out all 3. Yes, that's allowed.
Okay.
Just a last question on top of what Pete just said about.
Sure.
Um,
Your mic. Thank you.
How about parking?
No parking requirements.
No parking requirements. So
No.
one house could have 5 cars. Okay,
There is no parking requirements, again, per state law.
okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Mhm.
Honorable Mayor, members of the Shafter City Council, my name is David Franz. I'm the Community Services Director. I'm pleased to report on the budget for this year. downtown. As you know, downtown isn't just a place on a map. It's not just a set of blocks, but it's actually a story that we tell about ourselves. It's a mirror of, says who we are as a community. And so that's why downtown gets special emphasis from you and from staff. It's not just significant for the business owners or the people who shop there even, but for all of us, downtown says who we are as a community and says who we are as Shafter. And so this has been a point of focus. And this is really the start of a longer process, I think, of revitalizing downtown. Starting with events. And so events is something that we've worked on right away. It's something that I inherited. The First Fridays program was in place and has a long history in Shafter. Foot traffic jumps about 50% when we have an event downtown. So it's a significant thing. When we've had First Friday events, when we've had farmers markets, we have 7 scheduled this year, and that pattern has continued. And so it's an opportunity from a storytelling perspective, it's an opportunity to tell our story to a lot more people. It also flips the switch on downtown, on the economy downtown. And that's something that we are monitoring closely. It's something that we're not just guessing about, but we have data on foot traffic for those events. And we're also listening to our business owners. So staff has walked Central Avenue and talked to all of the business owners about what they would like to see. We've also had monthly downtown business roundtables, and that's been a place where we've begun to talk about the set of ideas that came before you as a draft strategic plan for downtown. And the idea is to let's workshop some of these ideas. These are ideas that have been tried in other places, and we want to get input from business owners and see what they want and make sure that we're serving what they see as a need for them. And those include things like organization, who's making decisions about downtown. It includes things like zoning and planning, and it also includes potential aesthetic improvements, such as murals or facade grants. And again, these things actually have a very long history in Shafter as well, going back to about 2000 downtown. So this is not an overnight project, but it is moving. And I'm going to just give this will be a high level. I won't go through each of these points, but onto the Library and Learning Center. So once again, this was a year where we made some infrastructure improvements at the Library and Learning Center. There was a remodel which added offices and created space to increase capacity. Staff is now able to work on site and make phone calls away from the public, which is important and is going to allow us to, so we have 2 offices now back there, which means that we have our coordinator, Rebecca Bernal, who has an office, and then there's a floating office that is used by librarians. It's also used by our teaching staff and our staff as people who need to make phone calls, some of it related to downtown and some of it related to the Learning Center. In addition, we added the little engine that could bench outside and also some additional seating for the plaza, which increases the effective capacity of the building and the space. Along those lines of increasing capacity and space, the Scoutmobile is up and running. It's expanding our reach. It's allowing us to serve the whole community, and it has been growing very quickly in terms of its use. We track the number of people that interact with the Scoutmobile on a monthly basis, which has been growing and is currently, since July, we've had 1,644 interactions. So it's people who have come up to get a library card, check out a book, or even just talk with staff. 560 physical books have been circulated through the Scoutmobile since July. And again, those numbers are going up month by month, which is really encouraging to see. The other area of growth that we're seeing is in ebooks, electronic books. So this includes books that you can listen to over your phone or that you can read on an e-reader or a phone or a computer. About 6 months ago, we were getting about 30 checkouts a month. Now it's consistently over 100. And, this is an opportunity to grow without increasing our shelf space. And it's an opportunity for, our residents who live far from the library to access books as well. So goals for the next fiscal year. It says enhance downtown activity. Really what this means in terms of more nuts and bolts of the strategy is to increase the cadence of events, not necessarily the size of events, but the number of events. So to integrate, and especially to integrate the things that we're already doing at the Learning Center and the library with the downtown. So for example, we've always had a Dia del Nino, or we've had for a number of years had a Dia del Nino event that's been down close to the Learning Center. We're taking some of those elements, face painting, balloon artists, an art show, and we're moving those into the First Fridays event. And so that we're bringing some of that activity to the downtown core. We're also working with Adventist Health to have a story time downtown. We're planning on having at least 2 of those. So we're excited about that. That's going to involve a walk. So Adventist Health is interested in increasing activity. So it's going to have a walk downtown. And we're excited about things like that. In addition, we've had art nights, and we have an artist, Nancy Becerra, who has been gradually refreshing some of our holiday displays for the downtown corner, which also serve as kind of Instagram backgrounds. And we're looking to coordinate that with some art night activities, which bring families downtown. So those are the kinds of things that we're looking at in terms of enhancing downtown activity, something that's regular and makes the downtown park sort of an anchor. Another goal is to boost library circulation. We're going to rely on Scoutmobile and the electronic books and the growth there to drive a lot of that. We're also excited about the fact that having completed the remodel, we've got our full complement of classes, which is going to allow us to increase traffic, which I've noticed in the time where we had to reduce the number of classes, that hurt our in-person circulation, which isn't surprising. And I can give you more details, Mayor, on all of that. I have a dashboard where I track this stuff daily. So again, those are things that are going to allow us to grow without growing the space, without having to, expand the building. We're able to grow through ebooks and the Scoutmobile. And finally, the aquatic center. You may have noticed that there's water in the pool. So that is a real thing, and it's happening. And so we're looking to contract with an operator for the aquatic center this year. Yeah, and so finally, and I would just say this in response to the question about metrics. I'd be happy to give you lots of metrics. Like I said, there's a dashboard, and the things that we look at are primarily how many people are coming to our classes, how many people are coming to our events, and we have that on a daily basis. And then we also look at how many books are people checking out in person, how many people are checking out at the Scoutmobile, and how many people are checking out electronically. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that I can.
You already answered my metric question. Thank you. Questions, folks?
Couple questions, just maybe 1 or 2. Your downtown business roundtable, what's the amount of folks that participate in that as far as businesses, or is that what?
Yeah, so it's the goal here is to get the people who run businesses downtown to come in. And it's been mixed. So, I mean, we typically have about 10 people. I would say typically, I don't know, it's been between, I think our first one, we maybe had 3 or 4. The most recent one, maybe we had 10. We've had, some of those have been chamber members, so not necessarily downtown businesses. But yeah, so between that and reaching out and talking to them, we've had a pretty good contact with the downtown businesses.
So out of that 10, maybe 3 are real business owners, like downtown wise?
Yeah, I mean, so I would have to go through. Sometimes they don't come to every one. So, we've probably had 4 or 5 downtown businesses represented.
Okay, so you get an input on 2 people that are real business owners, or 3 perhaps, of downtown. their opinion as business owners for downtown. So basically, those three are representing the whole down central business corridor.
So,
basically.
David, before you, so part of this too is the downtown, the meetings, especially the ones that I've been involved with. This is an opportunity for them to bring issues forward.
Mhm.
So and they bring issues forward and then allows us to objectively assess those issues and see if we can respond to them. And one of the first ones was Glad Rags with the poor drainage and the mosquitoes that have been historic in downtown. So and these just started, I think you've had what, 4? So and they always start out a little bit slow with attendance, but they're not representing, they're providing us input from a stakeholder perspective, but they aren't providing us positions.
No, I'm just trying to see the value perhaps maybe on my end of it, right? So if you get two people that come in that just tell you about, hey, I got a broken board in front of my business store. I get that, and you could just come to the city hall and tell you that. But if everybody that's participating or not business owners don't have no really, stake into the downtown, I'm just trying to see the value. I'm just trying to balance that out in my own head. So that was just the question. I didn't know what the goal of the table was, the round table.
Part of the reason these roundtables are going forward too is when we did the downtown business walk and talked to the business owners, we did receive a couple of comments from business owners about they felt like they weren't heard and they didn't know anybody on council, so they didn't have a connection, stuff like that. That's why we really tried to increase our presence, specifically for downtown. These meetings, while they've taken off pretty slow, have given us some pretty critical insights, at least initially, into issues that we may not have heard.
So I'm assuming through all this, and maybe I don't want to drag this out, but the parking part I haven't heard any more about the parking. I'm assuming that's been taken care of.
So parking, we've looked at lots. Gio actually pulled a couple potentials and stuff like that. One of them got pulled from underneath us. There's a potential of a parking project in downtown that I think would serve some of this as well. But they've been mostly quiet on that. And I don't think has we received any comments on parking at any of the meetings?
There was a discussion at the first meeting. Yeah, there hasn't been as much more recently.
Are there agendas published? I haven't seen anything.
No, we
Maybe
haven't
it's really
published
just
it.
to come in and have this discussion.
It's to this point, that's been the process it's been sort of open, but I mean, we can definitely share out agendas as we
Well, I
do.
mean, that wasn't the goal, is to have something already planned in. I mean, that's why I talked to you to see about myself coming and sitting in on them, but I've always had something going on the nights that you have it. And so I haven't heard, but I just wondered like you asked questions here as to who was and what. But I didn't even know if there was an agenda, so.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would say it's more kind of like office hours. I mean, there's the one I was a part of
Okay.
had some great conversation. I think it was the two ladies. They gave us some definite opportunities to improve on. But yeah, it's more informally.
And that's okay. I just wasn't aware.
To this point, we've always done some kind of presentation of like what's going on at the city. So at one of those, I presented some of the ideas that I shared with council in terms of what is possible for downtowns and gave some perspective of other communities. Just really to start the discussion. My hope and I think that this is possible is that we are starting relationships with those downtown business owners who feel like they can come into the city, that we're not strangers, and that we can start to grow some leadership from within our business community.
That's fine.
Just the last one, the first Friday, I've heard a lot of I heard there was a big crowd. So I'm assuming, I haven't had opportunity to go, but I'm assuming the numbers are pretty high in the first Fridays.
Yeah, they've been pretty consistent.
I'm assuming that the numbers are pretty high on the first Fridays.
They've been consistent with, what First Fridays has
Right.
been, I would say.
Okay, I had on the other end, again, I wasn't there, so, but it just, some of the folks that are they're, buying stuff, there's a lot of the vendors are not from local vendors and people from businesses and from Shafter. So I didn't know if there was a formula or how that would work. I'm just trying to
Right.
understand that, so.
Yeah, so we've partnered with Hens Roost, which is an organization that that they do this professionally, to manage the intake of vendors. And so we've given them a list of some ideas of vendors that we've worked with in the past, but for the most part, this is a project that is not run, like we're not actually we're not accepting the vendors, and we have not given her a set of criteria of like preference for Shafter vendors or anything like that. So it's basically been a hen's roost process where they receive applications. I do know that the number of applications that they've received has been far in excess of their capacity. I mean, I think she said that they turned away like 80 plus vendors. So I know that there's a big demand to be in our market. But I don't know about the
Yeah.
breakdown of Shafter versus not Shafter.
Okay, all right, maybe, I don't know, something we might want to revisit just to the fairness of the community supporting local businesses
Yeah, I think if,
or some kind of balance, maybe.
yeah, on the city's contribution, that's very minimal. So we could, we're really just a partner that helps facilitates the connections and the processing, whatever permits they need. If, in order to get a little bit more control, we'd probably need to pay for the event so that it was more a city event as opposed to a Hens Roost event. Or really initiate our own would be how we could do it.
Give me, and then, okay, I'll get with you on the, okay, thank you.
I have a couple of questions. You mentioned the reduction in classes at the Learning Center. Why was that, or why did that happen?
Well, it was really just a matter of our class. Well, so we were remodeling the back room, which meant that staff needed a place to be, which meant, and we needed to store all the stuff that was in the back room. So we ended up using one of our classrooms for several months while the construction was going on. So it was really just a reduction of classroom space. We needed one of the classrooms to be an office and storage space. And so we had 2 of our 3 classrooms available. And so we just had fewer classes during peak times.
Okay. All right. And then on the matrix, I know you mentioned that, but I would like to know kind of like the number of students that are utilizing the Learning Center, kind of like what those numbers look like for like the year, if you can provide that at some point.
Yeah, sure. I can get that to you.
Okay. That's all I have.
Any other questions, folks? Okay, thank you, sir.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the Shafter City Council. My name is Michael James. I'm the Director of Public Works. I'm here to highlight the budget that's been developed for the department to maintain existing service levels next fiscal year and ensure capital improvement projects are completed or at least on track for completion. But before we look forward, I'd like to take a look back and highlight what's taken place over the current fiscal year. The most noticeable and probably most publicized accomplishments have been centered on park and recreation improvements. We've made significant progress with Clean California grant funds in particular. We've finished well-received improvements at Stringham Park. We've added lighting and new equipment to the skate park. And as Dr. Franz pointed out, we have water in the pool and we can focus on the new building at the Aquatic Center now. In addition to Clean California funds, we've managed over $1 million in federal ARPA funding for improvements at Veterans Park, notably soccer field lighting and the basketball court. In addition to the ARPA funds, we led the update to the memorial site, adding additional flagpoles. So in additional projects led by Public Works include public facilities, including the Learning Center remodel Dr. Franz referred to, and the council chambers modernization that we're all benefiting from right now. So within the past few months, the department has deployed new technology to help us better monitor street and pavement conditions to help prioritize future improvements. And for the water system, one objective that I'm particularly proud of, because it's taken several years to complete, is the becoming a fully metered water system, in that all of our service connections should now have meters for billing purposes. So beyond state compliance, a benefit of having a metered system is that we have an equitable water rates that we're charging for all of our customers now. And with the metered rate, customers have an incentive to conserve because they know how much water they're using. In addition to the meter project, we completed a well number 21, which you may not have seen firsthand, but well 21 originally was an agricultural well across the street from the Ross facility that we permitted with the intent of converting to a domestic well, and we have been able to wrap that project up this year. And it should be permitted just in time for summer. And then we have made significant progress with road improvements for our major thoroughfares. One example is continued reconstruction of Zerker Road. It's a phased project that started close to 7th Standard Road, and when funding becomes available, we kind of gradually work our way north. And we're at a point now where those phased improvements are transitioning from the north-south segment to the east-west segment between the roofing facilities. I think I skipped a slide. Okay, so looking ahead to next fiscal year, the department is focused on several goals and objectives. We will continue to support council strategic plan initiatives in that we will try to optimize, modernize the reservation system for parks and public facilities. And then we're wrapping up a new bidding and procurement policy that'll help us expedite projects and purchases. And we hope to build on the progress that we've accomplished with improvements to parks and public facilities. Two examples include a parking lot and restroom addition to the skate park, and as well as parking lot repairs and expansions at the animal control facility. And at Public Works, we're generally always focused on infrastructure upgrades to ensure public infrastructure is built for growth and maintained for everybody's benefit. So that's why it's extremely important that the council ultimately consider and adopt this fiscal year updates to our utility service rate plans and development impact fees to make sure infrastructure is properly funded moving forward. And because the water system is without a doubt our most critical and costly operation, we'll always strive to continue to optimize conservation and efficiency programs. This slide summarizes the updated 5-year capital improvement program. The top right corner summarizes expenditures sorted by major divisions of Public Works. As you note on the third column of the table, the total CIP is valued at approximately $140 million. And if you compare historical, which is basically through this fiscal year and the upcoming fiscal year, we're looking to double the amount of money that's spent through the capital improvement program. You also note that in the total project, the 5-year window of expenditures, the wastewater alone is going to take up more than a third of the CIP. And that's so we could complete the wastewater treatment plant expansion and upgrade project plan within the next few years. The bottom left corner of this slide summarizes basically where the money is supposed to come from for fiscal year 25-26. And you'll note that the majority of the funding committed for this upcoming fiscal year is the general fund and state grants, focused on 3 primary projects, which are the Aquatic Center completion, the North Shafter Community Park, and then the Gossamer Grove substation. This slide highlights planned improvements, project completions, I should say, for next fiscal year. By next summer, 2026 to be exact, so there's no miscommunication, we want to fully restore the Aquatic Center and complete the new community park in North Shafter. Between now and next summer, we also plan continued improvements for our major thoroughfares, including the next phase of Zerker Road, a reconstruction of Laredale Highway between Schneid Street and Valley, as well as a resurfacing of the existing travel lanes for Santa Fe Way, which we already have out to bid right now. We're also looking to expand our water service capacity by drilling a new groundwater well in the North Shafter area, specifically south of the planned park site. And we've already secured over $2 million to commit for bike lane and pedestrian access improvements in the core city. 1 million of that is committed exclusively to the Highway 43 corridor, so we can construct a shared use path for bicycles and pedestrians to link the North Shafter communities with the core city businesses, schools, and parks.
And that's Air District money, right?
Correct. And then we're also going to continue our practice of implementing residential street improvement projects, which are typically valued at $750,000 to $1 million every year. Finally, the CIP doesn't just include construction, it includes what I call behind the scenes work, design and right of way, namely, and we definitely have that going on for two roundabout projects planned for Highway 43 at the intersections of 7th Standard Road and Santa Fe Way. I mentioned the wastewater treatment plant project. The design on that is 60% complete. And it's very likely that project could be going out to bid next year. So it's really critical that we, like as I mentioned earlier, that we have the funding in place to meet our obligations with respect to that project. And then finally, we plan to complete a design of a second water storage tank at the wonderful industrial park to ensure that our service needs keep up with the rapid growth and expansion of the park. And with that, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Council questions?
I just had one, Mr. Mike. The Veterans Hall, the lighting at the Veterans Hall on the north side, doesn't have any lighting. It's all dark.
Exterior,
Yeah, from outside, exterior. I don't know if it was something that we could look at or
Oh, sure.
maybe,
Absolutely.
just because we have, public events there, and birthday parties and quinceañeras, all those things in the evenings. And right now it's still daylight, but during the winter time, that part of towards the court parking lot is black, dark. The part that's towards the street, it's like called James Street, it's lit up pretty good next to
the new lighting there.
yeah, very nice, very lit up, but it's just the other half of the Veterans Hall that's just pitch black all the way to the back where the trash cans are at.
That shouldn't be too hard to address.
Okay,
Thanks for letting me know.
thank you, sir.
Any other questions, folks?
I do.
Sir?
Just to confirm, you talked about the aquatic center improvements and the North Shafter Community Park. And so that's summer of 26 that the both be completed?
Correct.
Okay. And then I did have another question on the roundabout at Highway 43 in Santa Fe. Is the high-speed rail and any delays on their construction going to delay any of this moving forward, or do you know, or?
Well, the roundabout and the high-speed rail are separate projects.
Right.
And Caltrans is leading one, high-speed rail is obviously leading another.
Right.
If you were to ask me a few months ago, I would say high-speed rail is going to happen first because of the federal funding that they had committed for the grade separation project. But it's very clear to us that that funding is on hold or in jeopardy. And but nonetheless, the roundabout's progressing as originally planned.
Okay.
And we're going to have a discussion about Beach Avenue because right now it's planned as a four-legged intersection, which basically means minus beach. But when the council previously acknowledged and committed to a four-legged intersection, it was with the understanding that the high-speed rail project was coming anyway, and then there was going to bump, and street mitigation work was going to come to help other streets contend with the increased traffic with Beach being closed, and that hasn't happened. So just today, with city manager's blessing, I sent Caltrans an email saying that, for now, we're not supportive of the Beach Avenue closure. We feel like it's premature. And given that we don't have the traffic mitigation that we were entitled to when we get compromised, when we reached a settlement with high-speed rail.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Yeah, beach can't close.
Yep, I know.
Mike, on page 15, you mentioned infrastructure upgrades. And I'm bringing this up because I know that the city of Wasco is experiencing some water infrastructure problems. And then listening to what's going on in Bakersfield with their sewage problems, I'm wondering where we're at with our capabilities and then our looking down the road as to what we're gonna be needing.
We're in a pretty similar predicament to where the city of Bakersfield's at, in that we have some major infrastructure upgrades and expansions we need to, we're past the point where we need to plan for it. We need to actually start getting ready to write checks to pay for some of the work. And everyone has some skin in the game, the existing users, because we're investing in an upgrade to an existing facility with the wastewater treatment plant. And we have growth that we're planning on that the plant isn't necessarily ready to handle. But we've been working on a rate study for the better part of 2 years. And we've We're foreseeing the same issues that Bakersfield staff were foreseeing, but we kind of were able to foresee that it wasn't very practical to try to recover like all in 1 year with the rates. So the rate plan that we're ultimately going to put before you for consideration is a very phased approach to not recovering overnight, but getting there. And we projected within an 8 to 10 year window. Ultimately, the rates that Bakersfield is suggesting are probably pretty realistic. That's probably what the going rate is. But getting there overnight just wasn't very practical. And so they're probably going to come back 6 months later or so and propose something similar to what we're ultimately going to propose this summer, would be more a phased approach, being a little aggressive, but not overly aggressive, to make sure we're on track.
Okay, because my concern is, the growth that we're talking about that's coming. Are we looking at staying ahead of that, or are we looking at staying ahead of just what we have right now?
Both.
Both.
So with this wastewater treatment plant project, we've itemized how much of that project should be the responsibility of new growth, and how much of it it should be the responsibility of existing users. Because again, we all have some responsibilities to make sure that plant is running and growing when the community grows. So we're addressing both areas, and I think, and we have to be really practical about it, because we have an opportunity to buy a certain amount of capacity, but do we really need that capacity? And because if we buy that capacity, then someone's going to have to pay for it. And if we don't need it, then we probably shouldn't be overburdening developers and with fees to pay for that. So we're assessing that right now and trying to be as practical as possible.
I can see where, that would come into play. Mr. City Manager, do not let this sneak up on us, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I think you're looking at was it 15% to start for sewer? That's very different than 300%.
Slightly.
Yeah, so it may walk the same path, but one path says 300, one says 15. I'll take the 15. But yes.
Yeah, please don't let this sneak up on us.
Understood.
Thank you.
Anyone else? A couple questions for you. Santa Fe really needs to get some love, and resurfacing I don't think is what's going to cut it. At 16,000 plus cars a day and growing, what are we looking at to expand that to a 4-lane?
We had attempted a grant program known as the RAISE program, which was federally funded, and we made an attempt at a widening project, kind of similar to 7 Standard Road. So we were unsuccessful in that endeavor, but we have other opportunities to pursue grant funding. That's our one means of fast tracking it, but it is a project identified in our updated traffic circulation element, which will mean it'll be part of the traffic impact fee schedule. But you're not going to get immediate results with that. It's just, but to answer your question, I mean, we're holding out hope that there's a grant funding. Fortunately, with Wonderful on the west side being pretty much the exclusive landowner along that corridor, at least we have the right of way. We have a pretty good handle on the right of way being obtainable. But if we're basing it off the 7 Standard model, then it could take quite a while to design, build.
So how do we not let it take quite a while? Because quite a while should have happened 15 years ago.
Yeah.
So how do we get to the point where it's not quite a while? And I say that with as much due respect as possible. I do recognize what it takes to go through the process. I do.
Mm-hmm.
Just the initial engineering of it alone is going to take time, and we're not even there yet. And most grants ask you to have some type of shovel-ready project to put you at the front of the list. We don't have that either, right?
The first thing we might consider doing is just jump-starting the environmental phase, because you don't want. It's one thing to acquire the right of way, but the environmental is going to take some time. So perhaps through the traffic impact fee program, we could just take on the environmental study right now. And that's something we could have in our back pocket. And then concurrently, we can work with Wonderful to deed us the right of way. And that could happen more sooner than later. But I think the critical path right now is getting that environmental work started. And we could definitely pitch a project, get that funded this next fiscal year.
Next fiscal 25, 26?
Correct.
Okay. We're making sure we're not 26, 27 next fiscal.
Understood.
That's something we can have that conversation, at least have it presented here in budget, because I just feel like we keep talking about it. Let's do something, but we haven't. And when I say 15 years, 15, 20 years ago, it may not have been this bad. I understand that, but it was to a point where we should have said something and nothing happened. And I still feel like we're just missing that big time. And the accidents are not stopping, the traffic's not stopping. We've got to do something.
Mike, is there room in the proposed budget to handle this study, or do we need another application on this?
There's funding, but it hasn't been programmed, so we could
Okay.
definitely come back to the council with a budget recommendation. It doesn't even have to wait until next fiscal year. We could definitely,
I think council can also make a motion. Do you know what the cost generally is?
at least $500,000.
Correct. Because you're doing a phase one and phase two or just a phase one?
Well, phase one would be $500,000. I would
Are we
imagine.
going to need both, do you think, or just doing the one?
Agricultural land, a lot of unknowns, yeah.
Probably.
I would think a phase two would be a safe bet.
So then no, it wouldn't be 500,000. It would be probably 3/4.
Fair enough.
We can add this in the draft budget and include it as an additional.
At the very least, allow it to come to council and have the discussion specifically on that topic to, right? If council as a collective says no, then you know the answer to that. But I think council should have the opportunity to say, yeah, we want to push this forward or we don't. Because right now, there's nothing.
As part of the budget process, you guys can, through motion practice, add this to the budget now, is what I'm saying. If not, we can pull it as a one-off and then bring it back during the year for an additional ad if you'd like to make it more specific to that.
So I'm going to ask all the dumb questions then. So walk me through that
So essentially, during the budget process,
today.
today,
Okay.
if a motion and second is brought forward to add this to it, we have a verified motion that then we can adjust the budget and add those amounts in. That way it's prepped for next year. Or alternatively, if you'd like to have a meeting for further discussion or major discussion, instead of adding it to budget, we can bring it as a regular staff item with an appropriation, which falls under your guys' purview. If that one's a little bit cleaner.
And I don't disagree. I do believe the process has to start with environmental. I understand that. Can't even engineer it without having that done. So I do understand the process there. So I wouldn't be opposed to it because you're gonna have to go through that route one way or another. But at the case, we would just simply just end the moment now, or do we wait to the end?
You guys, if we want to save motions until the end, that's up to your discretion. If you'd like, I mean, it may be cleaner for us to bring it on a staff report. That way you guys can have discussion.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Correct.
If you'd like to do
I
that,
think
yeah.
there's.
That would be better.
We can do that. That way you get a little bit.
Yes, that would be a better option if you don't mind, please. Can we have that on the next one? Is that possible? Listen, you got like 4 days.
Actually looking at the clerk on this one.
Oh, come on. I've seen you do things in
Well,
less
he
than
doesn't
24
go
hours.
that Fast
We'll,
anyway.
we'll have it on the second meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you. Is that May 20th?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So the raise fell. Did they say why it fell?
No, we haven't followed up on that, but it's extremely competitive. I know that. And I think the lack of environmental might be working against us. So let's just try to address that now.
Yeah, for sure. The other question I would have is for Cherry and Golds. Golds obviously would need to be developed. If and when the rec decides to build a park, and supposedly they've turned water on to start moving dirt, but
Yeah.
we'll see about that.
They have.
Yeah. Now Cherry and Golds, if my bearings right, Cherry and Golds south of Lerdo was going to be paid for through HSR, correct?
I believe Cherry was.
Golds wasn't part of that?
I don't have the settlement agreement in front of me, but it could very well have been Gold's too.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's verify. But the flip side of that is that old HSR money or was that new HSR money? Meaning, was that part of their newly found federal money that's now on hold? Or was that part of their state money that they had that potentially is not on hold? I guess my question is, has everything stopped with them or are they still progressing in certain sections?
I don't
They're
think they can
still,
answer it.
they're still,
Yeah, well,
Can't answer it.
they're still progressing on certain fronts, just not the fronts
Not the ones we
think of
want.
when you see progress,
Yeah.
when you think progress,
Yeah.
but they are, on a staff level, they are continuing to ask us about hypotheticals along this corridor, along the chapter corridors, specifically road improvements and mitigation, but they've been very non-committal about timelines for construction.
We have the payback agreement set in place with them for the engineering services? Okay. So is this something that we can at least reach out and say, listen, we'd like to get started on, let's assume Golds is part of that. We'd like to get started on Golds and Cherry, on the updates in these areas. We need confirmation that this is still,
Gold is also included in the 2018 settlement as well.
I knew I wasn't too crazy. So can we reach back out and say, for Golds and Cherry, we'd like to start this work, let's just say today. We need confirmation that we are still green lighted to go.
I would like to do them one better and just ask if we could just take the lead on the project because
Correct.
I think what I don't want to have happen is wait for the high-speed rail to break ground and then deal with the traffic mitigation. I'd rather do that first, and I'd like to add that recommendation to the question about the status of the funding.
I don't disagree with you. I guess that's where I would like to have seen it go. And I know they, mentioned that that was what they would like as well. They just didn't have the capacity to do it. But at the very least, Gold is going to have to be built out, let's just say within the next 18 months. Okay. With the rec going in, yeah, they can use ash, but they're going to want Golds as well. And we know Cherry is going to eventually happen. So it'd be nice to get in front of it today if we can, and at least make the ask. If this is still green lighted with you guys, we'd like to take the lead, run with it, engineer it, design, build, be done. Can we do that? Do we need to have a motion for that too?
No, I mean, that's something staff has discretion to reach out on.
Thank you.
Kind of push. We're within the alignment, or we're in alignment with the 2018 settlement as approved by council, so that's not taking too much discretion.
We don't have any timelines on Cherry, do we? I mean, we agreed to be part of the project. Or is this separate?
When you say Cherry,
Yeah, the federal grant that was coming for.
oh,
You're talking the overpass?
The grade separations?
Mhm.
Well,
No, no.
Cherry's not part of that, but.
No, this isn't for the grade separation.
No.
This is just the road. The road itself
Yes.
is part of HSR to do the expansion of the road up to the rail. But the rail overpass that was going to happen there is something that we just approved 6 months ago, 8 months ago. Is that the one you're talking about?
No, I don't think so. No, this is another one. This was all federal money, I thought. For Cherry with the overpass. It just doesn't interfere at all.
Well, there's been.
But that's way down
There's
the
been money that through with the county
Mhm.
and Bakersfield that we've applied for that
Yes,
we've been unsuccessful in so far. So that's the only federal money.
But it
with
was
Cherry
in a
that I'm aware of.
projected way out. I mean, there wasn't any immediate push on that.
No.
No.
Not on the overpass, no,
And
man.
it's not even been granted in anything. I
No.
mean, I haven't seen anything on it. Okay.
Yeah.
So
But this,
by
this,
doing this wouldn't interfere, it wouldn't interfere with
No,
the project at all?
No, they're completely separate areas.
that was, I think, all I have. Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
Next up, you guys are gonna have the finance director providing an overview of the operating budget.
Okay, where are you starting from so I can get
Page
caught up
20.
here? I have 20, but then you also get into the other pages. Are you going all the way into 94, 95, which is finance?
No, he's just using this, which is,
Okay.
that's page 19. So
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Roger Sanchez, Finance Director. So I wanted to give you a brief overview of the upcoming budget, get into the meat of the purpose of this meeting. So right off the bat, we have a summary of the general fund operating revenues and operating expenses. On the shaded area on the right side, we have what is proposed for the upcoming fiscal year. This is what we're asking to be adopted. It has on the top section, the revenues at $37.4 million, and then we have labor cost and other M&O operating expenses. At the end, we have operating expenses at $33.2 million with a projected operating income of $4 million. Now, this does not include yet what is going to be requested by the city manager later on into this meeting. So this is basically, this is to maintain existing service levels. Once you subtract the $10.9 million that Public Works Director just briefly discussed, then we can see that the upcoming fiscal year will need, we will need reserves to make up for that shortfall. The next slide provides general fund revenues. The blue section has $27.8 million, which is taxes, which includes sales taxes and property taxes. It's hard to highlight in this chart, but property taxes has been very successful. We've been receiving, it's been growing heavily. Now, not to, if you notice on the $2.5 million, which is related to the green area, excuse me, the 3.3 million licenses and permits, that is a huge increase compared to the past. This is the area of mainly from building, Dennis, and that has significant increases. There are going to be busy people there. We also have a blessing in addition to that with the investment income, which is the orange of $2.5 million. Again, all good news throughout for a total of $37.4 million projected for next year. Again, this is general fund. This section focuses on general fund expenses. The top one is by category. We have labor cost, plant operations, utilities, internal charges, others, and the total. So for the proposed fiscal year 25-26, again, is $33.28 million. On the right-hand side, we have the compounded annual growth rate. So you can see, you can look at a window over 6 years period, and you can see the growth on the different areas. The bottom report, the bottom table, it's the exact same information, except that this is broken by department. So you can have a breakdown by police, public works, economic development, and so on. So again, you can see on the right side, the growth rate for the different departments. Now, the public works has other divisions, and that's what's coming up on the next slide. This is General Fund Public Works, and it has the engineering, streets, and public facilities, which is the parks division. Now, in this chart, it provides the proposed in the blue versus the current budget, which is in gray, and the actual year in 23-24 that we recently closed. So that's for comparison purposes. And as you can see, the streets is the largest division. Labor cost is the largest expense in the city, so this is a citywide labor cost. And the green is the budget, historical budget, and what is being proposed for the upcoming fiscal year is $24.1 million. And the bar red, it's the actuals, historicals. Continuing with public works, but this is non-general fund. We have the facilities, we have the shop, rail, refuse, sewer, and water. As you can see, the water and the three enterprise funds, water, sewer, and refuse, are the largest budgets. Again, it compares the upcoming fiscal year to the current budget and the prior year. This is a summary of the proposed budget for the upcoming fiscal year. Revenues minus operating expenses. We have an operating income of $4 million. The request that we have is for personal cost of around $600,000. One-time fleet and consulting, $970,000, for a total request for the upcoming year of $1.5 million. So that's, city manager is going to give you details of what's that made up. So once we see that, we still have a surplus of $2.5 million for the upcoming year. Once you remove the CIP, then the shortfall is $8.4 million for the upcoming year. And with that, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Council, questions in regards to what Roger presented? And I'm not sure if you're going to get into the backside of it, but council, just heads up, there's a much more in-depth version of that on the backside on the operating budget if you'd like to dive in deeper.
I also provided a full book of all the details, every single line item on the budget. So that's quite a few pages on that.
I love it. I love it. No questions? Okay, hearing none, seeing none, sir.
Right.
Thank you, Roger.
Go Roger, man, way to go. All right, up next, and it's a little bit different for a city budget, but with the city's priority or the council's priority in the past, especially on economic development, Kamal had a great idea to include a little bit different of a pitch from economic development to give you guys a current look and some potentials. So Kamal?
I'm right here.
Oh, wow.
Honorable Mayor, council members, Kamal Siada, Economic Development Director. This is my first opportunity to stand here and talk about economic development. And it gives me really, it's really an honor to be here tonight and to talk about this city and what's possible for its future. And the way I see Shafter, cities are like little gardens. At first, you plant flowers, you plant trees, and you hope that they will take roots. And at some point, when the growth comes, fast, rich, and beautiful, and just when things start blooming, you realize that you need to start planning for the next year and perhaps beyond in terms of what you want to do. And that's exactly where I think Shafter is. After working in cities around, good parts of this globe, places that I have seen chasing growth, places rebuilding, places finding their way, I can tell you from experience that Shafter is something truly unique. It is very unique for all the elements that it has, and it's a city that really punches way above its weight. So I'm taking sort of a high bird's eye view of what I have seen Shafter today. It's really about the strong asset base that has been developed in Shafter. It is the infrastructure, the world-class distribution hub. It is the robust housing growth, current and projected. And more importantly, the strong financial stewardship. And that couldn't have come by chance. It's really a direct result of the leadership of the council and the commitment to smart growth and smart investments for the city. But also it's about the team that we have in this city, which is very unique. We've got a very high performance team. And I looked at what Shafter has done, and I shared this with potential investors and potential tenants coming to the city. This is really a true reflection of what happens. I've worked in a lot of organizations. I've seen government operating, departments in different parts of the world. This is really what makes this city propel. We have strong collaboration. We don't have functional silos. We've got focus on safety, which is very important, and execution and speed. I've seen this with my peers. All the folks that work in the city are extremely responsive, and that has shown to a lot of people that came to Shafter to visit us. So today we have a chance to build on this momentum and look at the future. Can you go back? So we have an opportunity to diversify the economic base beyond what we have today in terms of us being a world-class distribution hub and a center for agriculture industry. Focus on unlocking high wage opportunities for the people of Shafter, especially as it grows, and clear and proactive plan for that diversification. but fit for purpose, nothing, not over-engineering what we wanted to do. So we are at an inflection point today with the city. So where do we go from here? We have done a lot of great things. And now, how do we move forward? However, we've got some realities that we have to deal with. The realities are in that we have many eggs in few baskets. And that is to say, what I wanted to do is I looked at the revenues that come to the city, and we've got sales tax and we've got property taxes. So when we look at the sales tax, we see that about 90% of our sales tax come from very few sources. And that has served us well. But concentration of this revenue source brings risk and vulnerability. Today, with the economic conditions that we have, there could be any number of things there where we might potentially lose any of these sources of revenues. And the same thing applies for the property taxes, although the percentages are a little bit more, they're a little bit more neutral than the property taxes. So we have about 50% also come from few sources on the property taxes. We see that the small red dots are large property owners, but their contribution to property taxes is very small. These are all agricultural land. So with that in mind, what do we need to do? Where do we go from here? I think that if you just step back and think about where Shafter might be 10 years from now, how does it look like? So if we imagine where we could be, I think, can build a diverse economy based on today's strength. So we leverage what we have in terms of distribution fulfillment center for the nation or for the West Coast. We need to continue to focus on retail as well as ag. But what's possible in the future is the first thing we could think about is how do we leverage the ag industry? How do we bring businesses that cut across the value chain of agriculture? Today, we produce commodities, they are harvested and shipped with little value added to those products. Are there any things that we can do to bring industries that will be integrated into this commodity source? We also can work on targeted diversified industries, things like advanced manufacturing, building an ecosystem around advanced manufacturing. We've got large amount of land that are designated industrial. So we need to leverage that and attract industries that could add to the diversification and perhaps, add job opportunities, elevate the standard of living for the people of Shafter. Other sectors can be, food processing, packaging, beyond expansion of the agriculture value chain. We've got an airport in the city, and there could be opportunities to bring aviation-related and aviation support-related industry. These industries, I believe, align very well with what we have to offer in Shafter. It aligns with the land, the workforce, and the infrastructure, and perhaps the vision for the city. So in terms of moving forward, what I would propose, and we can talk, I have more detail in terms of what has been accomplished over the past year. But what I think what we need to do is, the good news is that we're not starting from scratch. We've got strong foundation. We have entitled land. We've got a new general plan coming hopefully in the next couple of years. The infrastructure is improving and expanding. We are working on regional partnerships with EDC, CTEC for workforce recruitment, partnership with Cal State, CSUB, and Bakersfield College. And so this is what we leverage. These are our strengths. But we also have moved ahead with some recent very strong achievement. And the highlights of those were the rail lease that we have. This is a game changer, not only for Shafter, but it's going to be for the region. This is the intermodal terminal that will be constructed hopefully by the end of this year. We're in the middle of finalizing the contract negotiation with the wonderful logistics center.
And I would just point out that is subject to council vote approval.
Thank you. And then we have been involved in support of major projects like U.S. cold storage, as well as other major projects in the wonderful logistics park. We have started strong engagement with the folks at Land Reserve, with looking at developing 132 acres on 7 Standard. This is a long-term opportunity, but it can bring tremendous amount of retail activities to the city of Shafter, coupled with the growth that's happening westward on 7th Standard. But we're also working on some immediate opportunities where we are identifying shovel-ready or pieces of property that could potentially be shovel-ready in the future. And one of those is the Laird Zurcher 3 plots on that intersection. This is a tremendous location for retail, for hospitality, for fast food outlets. So we're working on that, and we'll be discussing that in the next council meeting next week. So with that in mind, what comes next? What we would like to do for next year is develop a long-term economic development strategy for Shafter, building on what we have, focusing on specific industries that we can bring to the city. Those will be based on a cluster-based analysis, meaning, advanced manufacturing, ag-related, aviation. We will have to determine what those are and go proactively after those. And then what I'd like to do is launch a strategic outreach to site selectors, as well as conducting some regional marketing initiatives for promoting the city of Shafter. But the engagement with the council is obviously paramount to make sure that we are tracking and we're getting feedback and guidance as we move forward. So the long-term goal, as I see it for the city, is how do we leave Shafter to the future generations? How do we leave something that they would be proud of? And that takes quite a bit of work, but it's fairly simple. It's around 3 major activities that we have to be laser focused on what we need to do in terms of public-private partnership, short and long-term goals, as well as developing performance metrics. One of the things we're going to do for next year is develop a dashboard for economic development and highlight the metrics that are very meaningful to economic development. So our role would be to enable, to facilitate, continue the business-friendly approach that the city has taken historically. And finally, it's all about value capture for the city and the people of the city of Shafter. So the momentum has brought us here, and the vision will take us to a brighter future, I hope. With that, I'll take any questions.
Council questions?
I just have, I have a question. We know what's happening at the WIP, but what's happening in the core city or Zerker, or Lerdo or?
We
outside of the
will,
WIP?
we're going to look at how, ways to revitalize the core downtown. I want to benchmark other cities, what they have accomplished. I mean, there are a lot of examples around the nation in terms of how the core of their cities have been brought up. And we need to look at creative ways to do that. So that's one. The second thing is that we're going to have develop an economic development strategy specifically for Lerdo and Seventh Standard. I mean, that's where all the activities are and the growth will be. And also the third leg is obviously the downtown.
Okay, so as far as that hasn't happened yet, right?
No, and one of the additional needs requested on there is there's an amount that's requested specifically to do this type of in-depth, location-based economic plan.
I know there last year we were all pumped up, you know, sky was the limit. And I think now I don't think that it's all died out, honestly. So of what I've seen, right? Unless you know something, maybe you could share something, tell me
I mean, not to steal thunder from other departments, but I will say there is a higher development rate in this area alone than most other areas. I think next year we're looking at, and I don't have commercial space because it's a lot smaller, but there's almost 5 million square feet of industrial space that's potential or spec to go forward.
on Lerdo.
It's all
Or
over. It's
all
gonna
over.
be all-
Okay, not the whip, because I know the whip, it's running by itself, basically.
I mean, the city supports them significantly.
No, we
Yeah,
support them. Don't get me
yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
Don't misinterpret what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say. I mean, they're doing a fabulous job. But I'm just talking about outside of the whip. What else is happening besides outside of the whip?
There are projects everywhere. As
Okay.
a matter of fact, one of the ones that you guys are gonna hear next week is a proposal from Economic Development on essentially a $1 sale for Lerdo and Golds. Part of this is because.
Lerdo and Zerker.
Little
Lerdo and
Zerker,
thank
yeah.
you.
It wasn't
Lerdo and
gold.
Zerker. I keep thinking Golds, I don't know why.
Whoa.
Lerdo and Zerker, and part of this is
on the table.
when you guys took the properties last time and ran them up, there wasn't a lot of play on them because the infrastructure is a massive problem. The proposal from Economic Development is to correct that by discounting the property and going forward, which has worked in a number of areas. That's the type of stuff that Kamal and Geo are working. It's not just WIP. WIP is our largest projects. I mean, we have one project there that's currently in discussion that'll be at $500 million. And that was actually an EDC Shafter Econ project, not
Mhm.
necessarily WIP. But we're looking all over.
And
We
another
can't-
one of 400 million.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
cold storage.
Projects, the amounts just keep growing is kind of the
Mm.
crazy part, but it's all over. And I know it caught some heat, but I will say the second Starbucks is a positive indicator for this area for development.
Okay.
We're also, we have, good news with ICSC. We've secured 3 meetings with major retail outlets, 2 grocery and 1 department store. So
Speak up, Kamal.
2 grocery store chains and 1 department store.
We actually don't have speakers here, so all the speakers are out there. So when you're talking, you might hear yourself. We don't. hear you
Okay,
up here. Yeah.
okay.
Where were those gonna be targeted?
The ICSC conference in Las Vegas in a couple of weeks.
But they're interested in coming here?
Well, we approach them, the key for us, given our size, is to get on their bandwidth. And so the fact that we're able to spend a few minutes with them selling the Shafters value proposition is quite important. Last year, from what I understand, we did not, I mean, we were not so lucky in terms of getting attention, especially from large organizations like the ones we're going to see in a couple of weeks.
We haven't gotten attention from any grocer as far as I've heard or been a part of. So
Yeah.
no, this would be a first.
That's what caught me off guard. I'm like, what? What did I miss?
Boy, this is gonna sound bad, but you know, when you're on your knees begging at their door and they still won't let you in,
Right.
and so you don't really anticipate any changes, and suddenly this guy isn't even on the door on his knees begging. He's just, hey, let's talk, and now they're willing to converse.
Well, I think we've got a great story with our growth. I mean, the rooftops over the next 5-10 years, and these projects are long-term projects, especially the large retail outlets. But I would imagine that we can make some significant progress, especially with cooperation from SLR. I think the other thing we're doing is I have met several key stakeholders like the big farmers. I'm going to go around, meet with the big manufacturing companies that we have to start getting them engaged as well, because they can be a source of significant leads into the city, and try to understand what issues they might be facing, where we could support them.
You know, I need to say it. This is the vision that I saw and felt and realized for many years. And we had a downturn because of lots of different events, but this is exactly, and that's what I told even Lance in looking through this is what we had before. I mean, we've considered out there at Berserker and Allen or Laredo. I mean, we've looked at all of what you're saying, but the timing is such that it just leads us on. That's the vision that needs to continue to grow. And so, yeah, I mean, the timing is just coming along.
Well, we'll make it happen.
Yes, sir.
To follow up, I think the interesting thing on the local area, I guess, to answer your question in a different light, with what Steve is doing in the general plan update, as well as the Laredo charrette that took place a few months ago, between the both of those, there's been a pretty large uptick of the local farmers and the local landowners who have kind of stepped up and said, hey, we want to talk. To the point where some of them said, our land's your land, do what you want to do. We've had another large farmer with, I would just say about 600 acres who has reached out and said, I'm willing to sell or develop, tell me what I need to do. So we're starting to see that. And that's specifically Laredo on this side. And because I know where I understand what you're saying on that. I think a lot still has to take place to finalize the general plan. But it was kind of, I don't want to say the momentum stopped. It shifted gears based on information that we didn't know we needed. And now that you know what's there, it kind of shifted and said, okay, I guess it goes back to what Mike's point is. How do we widen Santa Fe? We'll start with an environmental. No one wants to start with an environmental, but you can't engineer it unless you start with an environmental. And so it kind of turned into that same situation, right? A lot of folks that he's talking to are wanting shovel-ready projects, and that it just can't happen. We're not there. So I hope that made sense.
I was just wondering, because a year ago, things were going great.
Yeah,
I'm not saying they're not now, but I just haven't heard anything.
100% agree. I would say before both of you gentlemen, even at the last conference we were at, the number one thing, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Gus, but the number one thing that kept coming up is, well, what do you have available now? And the answer is, well, we can talk to somebody, but we don't have anything available
From
now.
that time to now, have we improved? I mean, are we more closer to shovel ready? Do we?
You can answer that. I would say yes.
Yeah, compared to what you guys had to sell last year, and you guys were selling a great opportunity. It's actually been drilled down a little bit more specifically, so we can talk long range about what's going out there. And I will say one of the big drop projects will be Wonderful's 3,800 homes they'll put in. I mean, especially for the large ag property that's near that area.
Yeah.
The value of that property, the utilization is going to go through the roof, but it's really kind of contingent on Wonderful starting development and kind of going forward.
That's not to say it won't be supported, because I think Sills got a housing project
Mhm.
and Dr.
Dr.
Harris
Harris.
housing projects out there as well. So there's a lot of potential, and they're starting to see that, especially as plans get firmed up. The hard part on these, as you guys probably saw last year, is typically it takes 2 or 3 years of hitting these guys pretty hard to get an actual lead out of it. Unfortunately, it can take some time.
So are we still interested in like a hotel or motel out there?
It will come with it.
Hotel?
It'll come with it.
We are very interested.
Yeah.
I'll let you say that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's actually
What-
one of the pushes for it.
What, my vision, our vision is to, there are 3 plots, to have those 3 master planned over a phased approach with maybe a gas station or truck stop, fast food retail, as well as a hotel.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's all
And,
been-
and that's a perfect location for it.
And the other part, excuse me, go ahead.
The issue obviously is that it's not shovel ready.
Mhm.
There has to be significant investment in infrastructure to make it shovel ready.
That's where I would ask the next question. What is it gonna take to get it shovel ready? But
Money?
I understand that, and a lot of it is, private owned land, but the stuff that we do have, and I get called, interestingly enough, I get called by either the construction firms or the developers just from relationships I have in other areas asking questions. And so I do know at the Lerdo side, Lerdo 99, there is, work that is going to be done. I would anticipate in the next 12 months, you'll start seeing some new construction happen out there, but I think what you're saying is going beyond that, which is really nice to hear.
What I was going to mention was the schools, because I'm hearing questions about locating and developing elementary as well as the high school. Because our area is large, and yet they should be focusing in on us. Talking about,
To save Kamal on this one, this would be, and I apologize, because economic development and citing schools always makes me a little nervous, to be honest. But no, part of the planning
That's right.
process, and that's where Steve's gonna really,
Yep.
is realistically, what growth are we looking at? What infrastructure is
Mhm.
needed out there? It's kind of like Gossamer Grove is a prime example of that. We're putting in public safety, everything to close that service gap so that there are no issues out there, and it runs the same as the core.
because we had a small enrollment at the high school, but we had space, so they've been able to add buildings, they brought in the portables, whatever, to accommodate. But that's not gonna satisfy as the growth comes. The primary or the elementary had an opportunity to have an offset because of the Grow Academy that came in. And so they've been able to relieve some of that, but even they're mentioning, what happens next. Because it goes to Gossamer Grove, and we're losing, North Wright has decided for sure not to build out there.
Not 100% on that, but that's the indicators that we're looking at right now.
Yes.
So they must have just recently flipped that script, because, as of 6 months ago, they pulled the environmental to start the process.
So there's been a lot of discussion on sites, so it's very much.
See, that's where I've seen it on Facebook, and I've seen it and heard it on others, because that's going to be a crucial component also. And there are other schools within our proximity that are enrolling in Shafter right now because they want to be out here for various reasons.
I want to make one quick comment on Shafter High School. I went last week with Gio. We went and visited CTEC,
Oh, you were out to the facility. Okay.
and it's an amazing place.
Oh, it
I was really mesmerized at the level of sophistication of these programs that would equip high schoolers to look at career opportunities in 36 different fields, including advanced manufacturing, healthcare, all sorts of things. And they run 20 for all of Kern County. They run about 2,600 students every year. Shafter sends 100 students go from Shafter, make all the way, they go all the way to CTEC to participate in those programs. And that's a good source for workforce development in the future for Shafter in different industries.
Well, the cost of what they put in to build that, and you probably knew this too, they were afraid, the high school district was afraid that they'd get criticized for it because it was a huge investment, not knowing exactly, because we're one of the first ones to put that facility in. But I can tell you, in a lot of places now, businesses comment how they pulled students as interns, as well as businesses tell me how their staff has come on board because, I mean, even our plaster people were telling me how they've had their own family members attending over there, and they're just amazed because it does offer that extra bit. Now, I don't know how they're gonna be able to expand it, include any more because they have waiting lists to get in there.
Yeah.
But I'm saying just in the lower levels here, we need to realize.
We've had, on that, one last comment, we've had a sort of high-level visit by potential sort of VIP in industrial sort of companies. And we had a sort of a show and tell visit for them. We hosted them in Shafter. And one of the things that are near and dear to them is really around workforce development, high school graduates and what they can bring to the table for these businesses.
I just want to, Kamal, I just want to say one thing real quick. Thank you for your presentation. Also, like over the last couple of years, I know that, you know, you brought a different direction to it to Councilman Alvarado's point that, you know, when we first started here, we started trying to figure out how do we get this economic development process and plan and strategy together to move forward. And some of us, you know, we don't think the bigger picture, right? We think like, hey, we need something now and something that's going to benefit us. But I think, you know, having that strategy where you're seeing the bigger vision, the bigger picture that will bring all those other things that we need, it just takes time. And I think that, you know, you're on target, you're on track with it. And I like what I see. And I think everything else will come as we develop those, you know, those ideas come to fruition. But even with the Starbucks, with the heat that, you know, was brought on, but, you know, business owners see that that's being built there. So it'll kind of in a sense stimulate that business area to bring other businesses to there. So it's like, it's a good thing. But you know, unfortunately, you won't see it till after it's built and in operation. So, but thank you for what you're doing.
Well, thanks.
Fast too.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for the comment. I appreciate that. And we'll keep you posted, of course, we'll, you know, get your guidance and feedback. To me, right now, I want to create a buzz around Shafter.
Yeah.
And so they're having a lot of conversation about the city and I think we're going to get there. Once we create a buzz around it, a lot of people are going to want to see what's happening here, especially as we start rolling out some of the announcements around the intermodal terminal and that sort of project.
Okay, no other questions? Thank you. Very good job,
Yep.
sir. Okay,
Thank you.
who's next?
Right. Up next is me again on priorities. So, Yasmina, if you could flip to the next slide, please. All right. So these are the additional needs requests that are put forward from the department head and city manager group. Realize that as any good budget begins, this was quite a bit more extensive list when we started. Putting it into context, this additional needs request is adding 4 positions for the 25-26 year. In the 24-25 year, 13 full-time positions were added and 2 part-time positions were added to the budget. This needs request is also $300,000 less than the prior year. We want to keep it to critical needs only. Starting with the top, the building inspector 1 and 2. This is what we would consider a revenue producing position. This is going to be in buildings. This is to make sure that they have the capacity to continue to put plans out in the same speed as which developers have become accustomed to in Shafter, which is very much to our benefit. The second position on there is an animal control officer. So we have a great animal control department. We have a great animal control manager in Nick, but he is pulling double duty currently as both a working manager and being out in the field. This allows us to have a little bit more capacity, and like Chief can talk a little bit more on that. The next one is a facilities construction specialist 1 and 2. This will be in public works. This is specifically to help us to provide better maintenance scheduling for the buildings. Right now, we have Ken. Ken does a fantastic job of making sure buildings are in decent working order under the purview of Alex and Mike. This would add a second position to them, and it's kind of critical. Sometimes these jobs can be tough, just one person. The final position on there is an executive assistant. This executive assistant will go to HR specifically. This is to provide both a little bit added capacity and some redundancy in the department. Right now, the department is very small, so when we have two people out, it does cause the department, and this is not a reflection on Carol at all. She does a fantastic job, but it does restrict what we can do. HR, like finance, is pretty much the gatekeeper in the city. If we can't hire effectively and fast, we lose opportunities. So this position is specifically to help them. For the past couple weeks, Vanessa has been assisting them to help bridge that gap, but this is becoming a bigger and bigger issue. The building consulting, this is to provide some additional capacity in Dennis's shop. It may not be used, but we have it if we need it, just in case. That way we can process projects very quickly. Economic development consulting, this is what we talked about earlier with the in-depth, or what Kamal referenced, with the in-depth economic development planning. So this is put as and these can go a bunch of different ways, but this is intensive looks and intensive long-term strategy planning, where we bring in a very high-end consultant that Kamal would select, and they do some analytic studies in the area. The next one is something that was added at the direction of council previously. This is a study to take a look at the cost of running a fire station and staffing it and everything else. New employee supplies and furniture. This is simply to make sure that we have a place for the new employees to sit. Buildings truck, this is a replacement for a prior vehicle. Same thing with code enforcement and utility truck. The IT fiber truck is going to be a new vehicle. Currently, IT is having some issues in getting out to the fiber locations in the flex van. Unfortunately, not a lot of clearance on that thing. So this is to provide them with the ability to actually haul tools, to get out there, to actually service the areas, and hopefully not try and steal trucks from other departments. It's also to facilitate the growth of the fiber network as it starts to get built out, and Johnny can talk very well to that if you guys need. All in all, the total request on this one is 1.5 million approximately. We kept it to specific and critical requests only with no addition. If there's any questions, let me know.
The building truck, 2,500?
Yes. The building truck, the replacement's 50,000.
No, I know, but it was a 2,500, not a 1,500, right? I didn't know. I guess I don't know. Right, I don't know if it was so it's not yours. For some reason, I was thinking Public Works, so it is your truck. I don't know why I was thinking on the building truck. For some reason, I was thinking Mike's, because I remember we talked about all the Public Works stuff is to keep it at the 2,500, not the 1,500s.
Yeah, the plan is to get all trucks at 25. So like when we're done using them, we're going to pass them down to Public
Gotcha.
Works. So same thing, the used one will go down to them, and we get them with some type of hitch. So it's a very similar cost to go 15 to 25. And then we have the towing capacity. So if they need them and can use them, and they will, like we seem to not have as much use on the city inspector vehicles, and they're definitely reusable vehicles. So.
Okay.
So when you say 1525, is that
Yeah, sorry.
1500?
I think we talked about it a couple years ago, and they wanted, we kept buying the 1,500s and couldn't pull nothing.
Okay, 25.
So I just wanted to make sure that's what we were looking at there. And then on the personnel request, Lance, are all of those step E's? They seem very high.
So I thought we spec'd these at the max level. Yeah, we did. Yes. So we did bring.
So someone coming in, that's not what we're gonna see out, but that is spec for future purposes.
Yeah, when we take a look at it from a budget perspective, we want to see total liabilities to the city, so we're spec'ing it as high as possible for budget purposes.
So you're really not gonna be spending that much?
No, but to keep in mind, and we
Still
want it
will.
to be using fiscal conservatism, we want to show the actual total impact of the city budget.
Okay, that's interesting.
I
Because
have a
I looked at it too and I thought they were pretty high, but, okay.
Sir?
I have a question. With request to the employees, Councilmember Alvarado brought it up earlier with code enforcement and doing the Saturday work or overtime and all that. Is Perry the only one that we have?
Perry
Yeah.
is our.
Yes.
Good timing you being here.
So we would flex his days and maybe try to give him a a Friday off and work Saturday or Monday off or something like that. And I think he's going to be okay to do that. So he's very flexible. But as
I-
time goes on, yeah, it may be in the works to look for some second code enforcement officer. Again, there's very little revenue in that department, so it definitely is an impact to the city, but it will be needed as Shafter continues to grow.
Because the concerns that I hear are commercial parking, RV parking, not cutting, the vacant houses not getting their lawns cut and everything. And you seem to see that just about everywhere you go. So I'm wondering if that needs to be a position added to that department.
Yeah, I mean, likely the department will need to grow at some point. It's especially as Shafter grows, one person can only get so far. And if you saw the amount of stuff that just happens on a daily basis of illegal construction or weeds that just grow overnight or over the weeks or months. And again, you can't get everywhere. It's a lot of it's reactive, but to go proactive, for sure, you need more people.
Yeah,
So,
okay, well,
It's definitely something for the future, though.
mhm.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question on the street sweeper. Are we having some issues and are we correcting or are we
Yeah.
coming ahead?
So, and I believe, Roger, correct me if I'm wrong, we are trying to purchase a street sweeper out of current allocations. The issue is the street sweeper, I guess, is historically had some issues. Rent on that thing for a replacement one is about $12,500 a month. So we are looking at, I thought we brought an item, or did we not bring an item?
Thought you did.
I could have swore we did, but.
Pretty sure you
for
did.
Authorization, Mike did pull, I think.
So Mike has
three-
probably better perspective, but it is on the next council meeting, a request to replace that. It has passed its useful life. And because the streets hasn't spent the money that we budgeted for the year, there's enough cushion to absorb that purchase if council decides to approve that purchase. And that's coming up on the next council meeting.
It couldn't have been added on this list?
So it's more of an immediate need. We want to handle it this year if we can. That way we can get it in production. With us having to rent the replacement one at seriously $12,500 a month, this is one of those ones that's better to move more quickly than not. So if we can get the new street sweeper going, that way we're not renting as long.
So you wouldn't add it in this list because you're going to take it from the other.
And we're gonna
From the
handle
current fiscal
Yeah,
year.
it won't be a new appropriation, but
Mhm.
utilize the funding. The item will go to you guys for approval.
Yeah.
So it's just, we're shifting it so we can get it into
Okay.
production a little bit faster.
Great, thank you.
Folks, any other questions?
So we didn't get, was there an answer to Councilmember Espinoza's question?
Are you on? Just wanted to make sure.
Was there an answer?
For code?
To add
Yes, he said
add a,
as it goes along. It'll
Yeah.
come on later.
yeah, correct.
Okay, so that could be 10 years from now, 15
No,
years.
no, no, no.
I don't think it's that long, but I think it's a matter of,
The only reason I say that is because, people drive around our community, they see our community, they like our community. And, keeping it clean, keeping it nice, people say hey, quality of life, right? But I just,
Well, he suggested we submit a list or tell the staff when you see something, they can go right to it. Instead
okay,
of having to look for it,
okay.
just for an interim.
Okay, so, all right, we'll do that one. All right, one more, just on the fire station study. Apparently I was probably not here when you guys talked about it. Have you talked about it, mentioned it, or brought it up, or?
We talked about it as a part of closed session during which you guys provided direction.
Okay, maybe I wasn't here at that time.
no, you were, I think you were your mom, that was the
Oh,
first time with
okay,
your mom.
okay, so that was,
Yeah.
okay.
It was, yeah, just in regards to.
We've
what's
had
happening with
lots of
substations.
studies is why I questioned it too. Seems like but
This one's gonna be a little bit different.
Yes.
The, I believe it was the Golden Gate study. I don't know if that sounds, I know Tehachapi sent me like 12 studies that were done previously. This one's gonna be specific to operational costs. So if City of Shafter wanted to put a fire station out there, how much does the fire station cost, the trucks, and then the employees?
see, it seems, we could get into a lot of debate here, but $100,000 is an awful lot of money to be spending today when we're not really planning to build our own station, but the discussion was because the county is going to put a station in, but it won't be at Gossamer.
Mm.
It may be across 99, but it'll still service the area. So I'm not too sure that we should be doing that study at 100,000 today, but that's being asked.
Okay, I'll just do the new for me. Apologize.
So we could take it off or delay it. I mean, it concerns me the amount of money that we're going to spend, especially when we're adding some more staff, as well as the other immediate needs, critical needs, as you call them. That one's not really critical, but I know we did discuss it. I didn't know it was going to go this forward.
The only thing I would say is I believe our current fire contract's up in 2027.
Okay.
So if we want to have an idea on how to negotiate this, we kind of need to know what the price is ahead of time. We're not the only city that's going to be undertaking this study. There are a couple other cities that we've been working with behind the scenes that are going to engage their own studies as well to see how much it would cost for them to initiate. The hard part for us is if we don't have an idea on how much it costs, I can't provide you guys with a recommendation on a path forward. I want to be careful that we don't recommend something that we really don't have revenue for. So that's kind of where this is really looping in, to give us a better idea. I've had a lot of conversations with other city managers on their costs. The hard part is I've been noticing that every city has a bit of a specific difference, which requires them to either go out and do split contracts with fire and ambulance, or to swivel it for, like in the city of Sanger, swivel it to running fire EMTs on the ridge. So kind of looking for a kind of at least next chief or somebody who knows what they're talking about to give us an idea of what this costs. But if we don't do it next year, I would highly suggest we do it probably prior to the 2027 conclusion of the contract. So we have some room to negotiate.
Well, we have some ongoing expenses, especially in labor, as well as not knowing for sure when everything comes together. And so, that was the only consideration.
Albeit these are placeholder numbers.
Yeah, and I know we put 100,000 on there.
It's not.
I would very much expect this to be the $20,000 to $30,000.
Right.
I just don't know because unfortunately in my prior experience, I've never bid a consultant for fire. So just wanted to err a little bit on the side of caution because we're not doing a full department spec out and everything else. But I also didn't want to have to shoot it too low and then bring it back to you guys.
So were you thinking of doing this immediately, or you're going to wait in 6 months? Or
Once budget is finalized and published, we will move forward with an RFP as quickly as possible.
on all of it? Okay.
Yes.
And same goes for the labor. That's not, it's a lower amount when it's all said and done to
Right.
start.
Yes. Very much.
Well, on these, but we already have such labor costs that are pretty high, shot up pretty fast.
Yes.
So on this, are we gonna wait, like, could we put it to a motion for like the future meeting to vote on it, or how does this go? What do we do with this?
Oh.
For the priorities?
Oh, for the
That is
priorities?
today.
Yeah, so this
That's
is where
today.
you guys are providing direction on the budget workshop, whether or not
Yeah.
these priorities are within alignment with your guys' vision.
For
And
the
if they
budget.
are,
For the budget?
yep, we'll
Yes,
bring
ma'am.
back a
Okay.
final budget to you guys, for you guys to vote, and then
Okay.
Any other questions, folks? Good conversation, by the way. Now, is that all the presentation?
Actually, we have, if you could flip Yasmina to the last slide, my apologies. We actually had to get a placeholder slide for you guys. So final look, and Roger can correct me if I'm wrong, but this, if you approve the additional needs, this is what we're looking at with regard to impact. to the
Well,
city.
this is in here, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
next page.
no tomorrow, no, that's.
Okay, good.
I
Saw you.
The excitement from you right now is great.
I think that's a big question. There's no need for a meeting tomorrow. If you approve what city manager's requesting of $1.5 million, or if you want to subtract any specific items that you don't like, you can communicate to city manager right now.
The question I had, I guess going back onto the budget aspect of it, so there is money coming out. Is that because, like we talked, I guess I'll use the substation as a great example, right? We had $6 million that was reserved for that total bill somewhere between 9.5 to whatever. And so the remainder of that to complete it is coming out of general fund in those scenarios.
Yeah, and that's where you're really seeing the big flip from a surplus to really going negative. A lot of these are gonna be one-time capital expense projects where we're really pulling out of the reserves to cover the shortage.
Correct. Okay. And I'm assuming that money is gobbled up probably in two projects, which would be Aquatic Center and substation. I know I'm looking at you, Mike, like it's not your fault, but
Yeah.
Aquatic Center substation, and I would say,
The park.
North Shafter.
Oh, that's right, for the work that's happening, engineering work right now, correct? Yeah, RSAT finalized and we're actually starting that. So I don't remember seeing a final budget for that. Sorry.
What's North Chapter?
They had went and started the whole engineering, surveying, what's gonna work, not work in that, all the housing, curbs, gutters, streets.
Yeah, okay.
Mayor Givens, I don't know that the North Shafter project that you're referring to might be tied to the general fund or significantly tied to the general fund. When I referenced North Shafter, I think I might have been referring to the community park.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. That's why I didn't understand. So it's community park that's taken. So one park, one aquatics, and substation is what's taking the amount.
I believe too, the $500,000 for the skate park bathroom is general fund as well. That's correct. Special fund.
Let me revert back on skate park. I know we said that. I thought the initial response to that was to determine if it's even feasible.
Correct, Mayor Gibbons. We're going to be before you to ask for authorization to move forward with an engineering study to determine the feasibility of a restroom.
Yeah, because we didn't know if it was feasible. So
Right.
yeah. Want to make sure there's a step before we get to that point. It wasn't just like, here you go, do it, and it's not going to work.
We still have to bring RFP in.
Correct. Okay. So out of what we're seeing on the negative value is really based on, I know there's more to it than that, I get it, but the crux of it is 3 major projects.
Yeah, and I believe last year there would have been the same situation because these projects have spanned multiple fiscal years. So and I appreciate Roger just showing it in this fashion. That way you guys know exactly the right way.
Yeah, it's worth pointing out that the highlighted number, we can see that the revenues are able to cover the operating expenses, and that's what we need to go to see going forward. The extra is because of the capital projects.
Theoretically, I'm going to ask one more dumb question. Page 20 of the presentation. So you said something, Lance, that caught my attention. So if this did indeed, which it did, span multiple years, then that would theoretically equate to the 5.8 and the 4, right? Talking about the operating income, roughly 9.8 million. So out of that 10.8 million that's being spent for those extra CIP, if you're covering it across multiple years, in this case it would have almost net zeroed in the scenario.
By now, it probably should have, if we'd have taken a yearly approach to obligating the funding and everything else. But this is a much cleaner way, I think, to show it, but it is the same.
I understand. And typically CIPs, every time we've done one, it's always a multi-year process. Unfortunately, in this one, that seemingly didn't happen.
Fortunately, with a specific year budget, we really need to look at the yearly CIP, but we can bring a additional look if you like.
Okay, thank you. That helps a lot more knowing that it spanned across multiples. So at this point, we are approving, or we're making a motion and a request to approve what we see on screen here, which is the general fund summary that is constructed based on the addition on the priorities. Is that correct?
You're going to move to provide direction to staff to finalize the budget and bring it back for council.
Would you be able to make changes there if something,
I mean, theoretically. it
or
would-
something that we forget to talk
Yes.
about now? Yes.
Yeah, if you can, I mean, we wouldn't have time to change the budget, what would be the issue at that meeting. So if we got it early enough, we could do another special meeting, have you guys provide direction on it during the full meeting, and then prepare the budget book for final approval.
And that won't come till June, right?
Ooh,
Yes, that is correct. We'll bring the final book for adoption on June.
So it's really open for a while yet.
Okay.
And once it's approved, adding? No. Taking away? Yes.
Take away the ICs.
Well, we do, but it's a lot easier to take away than it is to add. Okay, so at this point, was that now the last slide?
that was the.
That's it.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Hey, Chad, how was that? Remember the question I asked you earlier? Would that have to do with, within the budget? Remember I asked you earlier? Is that part of this? I don't remember. What's that? You don't remember?
No,
That's totally different.
totally different.
Okay.
I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, totally different. Okay, so on the table, I'm clear to go. Okay, on the table for this evening, folks, is a a request for a motion to carry, to prepare the budget.
Final budget for council.
Thank you. To prepare the final budget for council based on what was shown here today. And thank you all for the time you have given into this process. With that said, I am looking for a motion in a second, please.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay. I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Olvera, second by Councilmember Espinoza. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Alvarado,
Yes.
Kraut, Olvera,
Yes.
Espinoza,
Yes.
and Gibbon.
Yes. Again, thank you. It was a lot of work for you guys to sit here and say, you only spent 2.5 hours on it?
Mhm.
Sorry, folks. With that said, there's nothing else on the docket for this evening. Council, I need a motion and a second for adjournment.
No motion.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Same sign oppose. Hearing none. We are adjourned 7:30.